Chapter 3192. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. After saying that, Maya no longer cared about Chi Huang's reaction. Her hands suddenly sped up. Divine Hand, weaves the heavens, activated. Fourth layer, Starry Domain, activated. Boom! The second lightning struck. Li Weiran didn't know how long he had been running for before he stopped. His expression was still a little perplexed. Slightly tilting his head to look at his bloody hand, he murmured, "Why did I save her? Let her die under the lightning. Then watch Di-Ming Ju suffer. Isn't that the happiest thing for me?" Li Weiran frowned in distress. He wondered if there was something wrong with his brain. Why would he do something that went against his will? Didn't he want to see Di-Ming Ju suffer? No, he wanted to. Li Weiran's lips slowly hooked up, revealing a cold and bloodthirsty smile. Even in his dreams, he wanted Di-Ming Ju to fall into an endless hell. Torment, pain, and struggle. He wanted to experience all the suffering he had experienced, never to be reincarnated. But since his wish hadn't changed, why would he be reluctant to let Mayan die? She was clearly the lover that Di-Ming Ju was crazily infatuated with, according to his sister. If she died, how wonderful would Di-Ming Ju's expression be? Boom! Suddenly, thunder boomed in the distance. In this mountain area, countless birds and beasts were alarmed. Forced by the power of the lightning, they fled in fear. Li Weiran looked towards the direction of the dark clouds. Suddenly, he flipped his wrist, and a yellowish-brown bug appeared in his palm. I don't like things that are beyond my control, and I won't allow anyone to ruin my plans. So Mayan, you'd better go die. Li Weiran raised his hand and threw the bug into the air. In a split second, the bug in the sky began to split up. From 1 to 2, 2 to 4. Finally, it became a densely packed group. This bug was called Bloodthirsty Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt meant that this bug wasn't afraid of any kind of lightning in the world. Even if it was lightning, they could easily devour it. But the food that Bloodthirsty Thunderbolt liked wasn't lightning or spiritual power, but living flesh and blood. The more lightning they devoured, the more powerful it was, and the stronger their thirst for flesh and blood. Once they were not satisfied, they would go crazy and eventually explode and die. Li Weiran looked at the bloodthirsty thunderlight, flying towards Mayan, and muttered, "Even if there's lightning, there's no guarantee that you'll die. But with the bloodthirsty thunderlight, it's different. June Mayan, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings." An inexplicable dull pain came from his heart. Li Weiran frowns uncomfortably, continuing, "Wait until I show Di-Ming Ju your body riddled with holes. His pained expression will definitely be very interesting." The corners of the youth's lips curled up. He wanted to smile, but in an instant, his lips tightened again. He abruptly turned around and headed away from the lightning. However, he couldn't help but recall the events of the past month, as well as that clear and melodious voice. "Go ahead and use the poison. If I get poisoned to death, it's my loss. But the premise is that you have to guarantee that our 3 meals are delicious. How about it? June Mayan, admit it. You just can't bear to see me being defiled. You say you've seen all the flowers in the world. Then this dark cloud spirit flower, have you seen it before? Your favorite dark cloud spirit flower. Are you sure you don't want to see it before you dig your eyes out?" Li Weiran's footsteps suddenly stopped, his hands tightly clenched into fists. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zai. Chapter 3193. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. June Mayan should die, but if she dies, no one will be able to grow the dark cloud spirit flower. No one will be able to eat his cooking with a satisfied face. No one will come to protect him, even though they know he will be unscathed. Boom! At the end of the sky, the third lightning strikes, accompanied by the mourning of the earth and the shaking of the mountains and rivers. Under such a terrible lightning strike, and with the bloodthirsty thunder rainbow by his side, it's impossible to survive. Li Weiran closes his eyes, the gentle and shy smile on his face gradually distorting into a fierce and ruthless madness. The next moment, he suddenly turns around and steps in the direction of a lightning strike, disappearing in an instant. Bang! The sound wall, created by the divine hands weave the sky, shatters. Mayan's knees soften and she falls forward. She quickly summons the 7 absolute swords and stabs them into the ground, stabilizing her body. But she can't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Mayan, how are you? Mayan wipes the blood from the corner of her mouth. I won't die. Isn't it just a lightning strike? Even if it's 10 times more powerful than before, she still withstood the third one. But it really hurts too much. Her bones and soul feel like they're about to be smashed by lightning. She's already exhausted all the spiritual power in her body, and even her internal force and immortal chi are almost depleted. She barely withstood 2 strikes. The third, or in other words, the fourth will be even stronger if Li Weiran takes it for her. Can she really withstand it? Qi Huang anxiously says, "There's no one here, let me come out. It's just a lightning strike. I'll take it for you." Mayan shakes her head. In theory, the floating island is closer to the Xioshin continent. Once your aura is leaked, it will be discovered very quickly. Qi Huang, you said that no matter what, you can't let anyone discover your existence, unless she becomes strong enough to protect Qi Huang and everyone around him. Qi Huang's voice stagnates, unable to say a word for a long time. A pair of gorgeous phoenix eyes flicker, as if dyed crimson, as if stained with sparkling water droplets. Mu Yin stood up shakily with the support of the 7 absolutes, sword, and teased. I'm going to take the third heavenly thunder. Qi Xiaohuang, take a good look at my heroic appearance. You're not allowed to hide in a corner and cry. Scram. Mayan, do you want to die? This sage is a venerable ancient artifact spirit. Who would cry? Qi Huang's voice is still a little hoarse, but he still subconsciously curses. Mu Yin smiles. It's good that Qi Xiaohuang can still scold people. Looking up at the thick dark clouds flickering with purple-gold light in the sky, Mu Yin clenched the 7 absolute sword in her hand. In the cultivation continent, she had fought many fierce battles. Even though her body was so weak, she was still able to withstand several heavenly tribulations. Not to mention now, even if it was 10 times stronger, she would still be able to hold on. Definitely. The Tian Mo Qin floats in the air, its strings fluttering in the wind, making whimpering sounds. Layers of phantom activated. Another Mayan's figure appears in front of the Tian Mo Qin, 10 fingers plucking the strings. The sound barrier created by divine hands weave appeared once again, protecting her within it. 7 supreme swords condensed starlight and slowly pointed to the sky. Mu Yin has made all the preparations, waiting for the 4th heavenly tribulation to descend. However, at this moment, she hears a buzzing sound in her ears. Mu Yin turns her head to look and sees a yellowish-brown smoke whizzing towards her at a very fast speed. What's that? This thought just flashes through Mu Yan's mind, and the yellowish-brown smoke has already wrapped her up in an instant. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 3194. 1 Second to Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Rumble. The 4th Thunder Tribulation falls. Mind doesn't have time to operate her spiritual power, and she feels a sharp pain assaulting her body. It's as if countless insects are biting her flesh and skin. No, it's not as if. This yellowish-brown mist is composed of countless small insects, and these small insects are densely packed on her body at this time, gnawing at her flesh. Sharp pain comes from every inch of her skin. A fire soars from Mayan's body, burning the insects on the surface of her body. But soon, countless insects swarmed over. What is this? Cold sweat drips from Mayan's forehead from the pain, but she doesn't have the strength to burn a second fire. Because the 4th heaven tribulation has come. The sharp pain disperses her originally condensed divine sense, and the sound wall, created by the divine hands weave the heavens, doesn't even block for a moment before it shatters with a loud bang. Mayan, she hears Qi Huang's heart-wrenching cry. The tool spirit, who has always been arrogant, desperately wants to rush out to block the heaven tribulation for her, even if it's a disaster waiting for him. But this madness comes to an abrupt end. because Chi Huang feels a familiar aura. He looks up in a daze, only to see a tall figure slowly appear in the void, pulling the already scarred girl into his arms. Faint blue flames emit from the man's body, silently sweeping through the densely packed, bloodthirsty thunderlight. In the blink of an eye, those cruel and tyrannical bugs were burnt to a crisp. Di Mingju. Yes, only this man can appear at a critical moment and protect Junmayan even if the mountains collapse and the earth split. Chi Huang stares at the two embracing figures in a daze. Suddenly, he closes his eyes and falls heavily on the grass in the space. In that split second, just now, he really thought that Junmayan would die, and his heart feels like it's being pulled tight and suffocated. Now it's very good. Ignoring the sourness and pain in his heart, Chi Huang smiles like a child. A scourge lasts for 1,000 years. Junmayan, since you're called a female devil, you must be happy for a long time. Mayan thinks that she's going to die this time. However, all of a sudden, the void spirit ring emitted a scorching heat. Then his body, which was in so much pain that it almost collapsed, was pulled into a familiar embrace. A clear and cold breath filled the tip of his nose. Muyan suddenly feels that her nose is a little sour, and her eyes are wet and hot. She tried to hold it in for a long time, but tears still fell from her eyes. Di Mingju. When she softly calls out this name, she doesn't know what kind of longing, grievance, and love it's brimming with. Di Mingju abruptly tightens his grip on her, his strength almost breaking her bones. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, and in the end he could only spit out 2 words, Mayan. All the fear, worry, and fear had turned into heartache at this moment. Di Mingju can't even say a word of reproach to her for putting him in danger. He just wanted to hug the girl tightly and feel that she was still alive and by his side. Muyan reaches out and hugs the man back, placing all her weight on him. After parting in Fusang City, she had experienced so many trials and tribulations, life and death parting. Even when she was besieged on all sides, at the end of her rope, she still straightened her spine, not revealing the slightest trace of weakness or exhaustion. But at this very moment, she doesn't even raise her head to look at Di Mingju's face. She only feels the familiar embrace. Tears are already flowing down uncontrollably. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please come to Zai. Chapter 3195. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. It's like he wants to vent out all the pain, loneliness, and grievances that he has experienced in this period of time. Boom! The 5th lightning strikes. Mayan is startled and quickly looks up. She sees the man next to her casually raise his hand, and a faintly discernible long sword appears in his hand. He gently swings it towards the sky. Boom! After a loud noise, the thick clouds are directly cut open. The 5th lightning strike of the heavenly punishment, which is halfway down, has not yet had the time to fall, and has already come to an abrupt stop. After the clouds dissipate, a red glow slowly appears in the sky. The mountains and rivers in front of her are dyed with a touching golden red. Mayan can't help but exclaim. Then she can't help but feel depressed. In Di Mingju's eyes, the heavenly punishment that almost tortured her to death is just a plaything that can be casually dealt with a swing of his sword. The gap in strength is so obvious, it's really too shocking. As soon as she raises her head, she's met with Di Mingju's cold and gloomy gaze. The way he's gnashing his teeth, it seems like he's itching to immediately swallow her whole. You're only at the crossing tribulation stage, yet you dare to touch the 5 elements law. Junmayan, are you tired of living? Mayan smiles guiltily and is about to say something, but she sees Di Mingju suddenly turn his head, looking at the distant hills. Mayan also can't help but look over. The mountains are shrouded in clouds at dawn, making people unable to clearly see the scene in the distance. They can only vaguely see a vague figure and a glaring red fluttering in the air. Is it Li Weiran? Seeing that red, Mayan instinctively thinks of the little pervert who would sometimes harm people and then save people, and whose temperament is always unpredictable. As she is thinking about this, the morning mist in the mountains seems to be blown away by a gust of wind. The youth's spotless white clothes and bright red silk are slowly revealed. It really is Li Weiran. Mayan grinds her teeth, grabs Diming-ju, and is about to rush up. It couldn't be better. She can finally realize Diming-ju's wish to smash this little pervert. But the next moment, she sees the youth slowly taking off the red silk and opening his eyes. Mayan's movements suddenly stop. A touch of ice blue, hidden by the long eyelashes, slowly opens. In that split second, Mu Yin didn't even have the time to clearly see the youth's true appearance. Everyone's attention was drawn to that pair of eyes, because those are a pair of ice blue eyes that are extremely similar to Diming-ju's. At this moment, this pair of eyes is quietly watching her and Diming-ju with a somewhat treacherous smile. Mu Yin sucked in a breath of cold air, wanting to see Li Weiran's real face again. However, the person in front of him suddenly disappeared into the clouds. Mayan stares blankly for a good while. Then she abruptly turns her head to look at Diming-ju. Actually, upon closer inspection, the two of them were not exactly alike. Diming-ju's facial features are handsome and deep, while Li Weiran is born with a kind of youthful beauty. Just based on a pair of icy blue eyes, it was naturally impossible to determine the connection between the two. After all, even though there were only a few blue-eyed people in the world, it did not mean that they did not exist. Her Xiaobao was one of them. Mu Yin had even heard from her third senior brother that there was a special clan in the Xiaoxing continent. Almost everyone in the clan had the same eye color as Xiaobao. Perhaps it was just her imagination just now. Mayan is staring at Diming-ju in a trance. Suddenly, she's fiercely pulled into someone's embrace. Jun Mayan, have you forgotten that Ben Jun warned you before that you're not allowed to go out and attract bees and butterflies? Mobile users, please browse and read. Chapter 3196. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Mayan is startled, thinking to herself, Diming-ju, do you and Qi Huang have the same brain circuit? Could it be that the focus at this time is whether I'm attracting bees and butterflies? Moreover, Li Weiran has only appeared for a short while. She didn't even say a word to him. How did Diming-ju see that she knows him? Cough. Diming-ju, we haven't seen each other for so long. Are you sure you don't want to tell me about lovesickness and say sweet nothings, but to talk about other men? Mayan wraps her hands around Diming-ju's neck, looking at him with a sweet smile. The man's originally taut face finally can't be maintained, little by little changing into a gentleness that he would never show in front of others. He suddenly reaches out and pulls her into his arms again, hoarsely saying, Yin Yin, I missed you so much. Only at this moment does Diming-ju remove all pretense. He completely reveals the stormy feelings in his heart in front of Mayan. This time, they've really been separated for far too long. It's been so long that both of them have experienced a calamity of life and death, and almost couldn't see each other again. Mayan nestles in Diming-ju's arms, slowly narrating everything that happened during this time. Besieged on all sides at the end of the line, forcibly breaking through life and death in an instant. There's also her master's death, Ning Su's ruthlessness, and the bewilderment and loneliness when she woke up alone in the gravel hill. Mayan thought that she would be very sad and angry when she talks about these things. However, she's full of regret and sorrow for Master's death. Everything else is narrated by her in an extremely flat tone. Mayan looks up at the man in front of her, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a shallow smile. Perhaps it's because no matter how difficult the situation, she has never truly despaired. As long as the spirit void ring on her finger still shines, as long as she thinks of Diming-ju and Xiaobao waiting for her in the Xiaoxing continent, she will give birth to infinite courage and hope, and then continue to grow stronger, never giving up. Diming-ju frowns as he listens, the anger and murderous intent in his eyes interweaving into a storm. If it weren't for Ning Su and the others, they would have already been killed by Mayan. He would have dismembered these people into 10,000 pieces. Diming-ju looks down at the woman in his arms, annoyed and distressed that he couldn't stay by her side. But she can't help but be proud of his face. Even in the Xioshin continent, even the once all-powerful Shunyu sect, who could reach Mu Yan's level, he triggered the 9-star chain and saved the Xioshin continent. Furthermore, with his cultivation at the tribulation stage, he had mastered the most terrifying power of the 5 elements. Thinking of this, Diming-ju's face sinks again. In the future, even if it's a matter of life and death, you're not allowed to use the power of law. Do you hear me? Mayan stares blankly. Why? She could understand that. But if he didn't use it in a moment of life and death, was he going to watch himself or the people around him die? Diming-ju says coldly, I don't know where you learned the trick to grasping the power of law. But Yin, I must tell you, the power of the laws of the 5 elements is something that even I can't easily grasp, let alone use lightly. If you use the power of laws when your body and soul aren't strong enough, the consequences won't be as simple as the divine punishment heavenly lightning. Mu Yin suddenly remembered the second time she used the power of law, the scene where her body was completely out of control. She murmurs, I'll lose control of my body. That's not all. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 3197. Diming-ju says, Law is the foundation of all things in the world. Now that you've grasped the law of the 5 elements, you should know what kind of terrible power it is. As long as anyone uses spiritual energy as a foundation to cast a spell, you only need to use the power of law to fundamentally disintegrate the spell. You can also endow the spiritual energy in the air with the powerful attack power of any of the 5 elements. Mu Yin, what do you think a person who can master this kind of power should be called? Mu Yan's pupils slightly contract, and after a long while, she spits out a word, God. Yes, God. When she fought with Ning Su in the Xioshin continent, she had a faint feeling. In the heavens and the earth, only I am supreme. As long as the sword is in hand, I can behead all living things in the world. That feeling of disdain and invincibility is both addictive and frightening. Now that Diming-ju points it out, isn't it like a god looking down on the ants of the world? Possessing the power of God, but without the body and soul to bear and control this power. When used again and again, what will the final result be? Will the soul be crushed, or will the body be taken over? Diming-ju shakes his head. I don't know. Seeing Mu Yin staring blankly at him, Diming-ju's eyes reveal a trace of a smile, and he reaches out to gently scrape the tip of her nose. Because in this world, there has never been a person who could master the power of law in the hollow immortal realm. And there is no one like you, Mu Yin, who can casually use the power of law. Moreover, it's the power of the 5 elements, which is at the peak of the power of law. Even Diming-ju himself, at Mu Yan's age, couldn't do this. The woman in front of him is so outstanding, unique in the world. And thinking that this Jun Mu Yin belongs to him, Diming-ju's heart softens, as if soaking in a hot spring. He leans down, his eyes deeply staring at Mu Yin, and says word by word, because this power is too powerful, so powerful that it makes people addicted and dependent, so powerful that it exceeds the limits of the heavenly Tao. Once used, there is bound to be a heavy price to pay. This price is not only the heavenly thunder, but also something that you and I can't afford. So Mu Yin, promise me, before you reach the immortal king realm, you are not allowed to use the power of law. Do you hear me? Mu Yin nods gloomily. His divine sense, however, was crazily roasting Qi Huang in the space. Qi Xiao Huang, what the hell are you teaching? What did it mean to be invincible if one grasped the power of laws? Invincible is invincible, but I can't use it. This is even more depressing than not letting me master it. Can't you teach me something practical? For once, Qi Huang did not retort. After a while, he said, in any case, don't use the power of laws in the future. You are not allowed to use it again. This time I was wrong. Mu Yin is shocked. The proud and arrogant Lord Artifact Spirit actually said, I was wrong. Was she dizzy or deaf? But Seven Brilliance had already lowered his head. This further proved how terrifying the power of the laws was. However, Muyin couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't use it. What if it was a matter of life and death for someone she cared about? What if he was really at the end of the line and had no choice but to use it? With such a powerful force in her hands, could she really hold back from using it? Chapter 3198. Immediately after, Mayan feels something drilling into her sea of knowledge, and finally stops on her sword heart. It forms a small blue ring and wraps around her natal sword. But after a moment, the ring disappears. Mayan looks up at Di Mingju in confusion. She hears the man's cold snort in her ear. With your incorrigible temperament, it's impossible for you not to use the power of law. So it's better for Ben Jun to seal you first. Mayan, fine. Di Mingju, you're ruthless enough. But since she's sealed, she doesn't have to hesitate in a life and death situation. Mayan is actually relieved. She has been holding the god's scepter in her hand, and in a critical moment, she doesn't think about fighting to become stronger. Instead, she wields the scepter to defeat the enemy. In fact, it's not good for her to improve her strength. Mayan hooks her arms around Di Mingju's neck and gently kisses him on the cheek. Husband's lesson is right. I won't dare to do it again. Di Mingju tries his best to keep a straight face, but the blush still spreads from his ears to his neck. Even his tightly pursed lips can't help but curve into a sweet arc. Mayan hasn't seen him for a long time, and it's rare to see him so pure. She can't help but giggle. Who knew that in the next moment, she would hear Di Mingju say coldly, Li Weiran, Mayan, aren't you going to talk about the rotten peach blossom you provoked in the gravel hill? Cough, cough, cough. Mayan almost chokes on her own saliva. Di Mingju, don't talk nonsense. What rotten peach blossom? This pervert is crazy. He wanted to kill me from the beginning. I used the power of law earlier because he drew over the people from the Mountain Split sect and stole my Tian and Mochin. In short, I wish for nothing more than for you to hammer this little pervert to death to vent my anger. So why would I take the initiative to provoke him? Di Mingju snorts coldly, his eyes overflowing with murderous intent. But this time, it's clearly not aimed at Mayan, but at Li Weiran. He has never heard of the name Li Weiran. He's also sure that he hasn't seen the figure that he just caught a glimpse of. But this person disappeared without a trace. It's not something that the people of the floating island could achieve. So this person should be from the Xiaoxian continent. As long as it's someone from the Xiaoxian continent, he has to dig them out even if he has to dig 3 feet into the ground. Mu Yin sees that she has successfully diverted the conflict and just breathes a sigh of relief. Suddenly, she curled up in his arms. Then a furry little head popped out. The moment it sees Di Mingju, it immediately pounces over happily. G. Daddy. Daddy. It's really Daddy. Was Huang Wang dreaming? Di Mingju grabs the little chick by the nape of its neck and lifts it up to his eyes. He says in disgust, how come its strength hasn't improved at all? His body became round after eating. Little Inghua tilted its head, the ahog on its head bouncing up and down as it squinted its eyes, revealing an adorable smile. Chirp, chirp, Daddy. Muyin couldn't help but laugh. Actually, Huang is very powerful. If it wasn't for him, I might have already died in the lightning. Di Mingju looks at the giggling, stupid chicken, resolutely refusing to admit that he has such a useless and stupid son. Since he was going to be his son, he had to train him fiercely. He would only be qualified if he had a certain level of strength. But when he thought of the little chick's luck attribute that Mu Yin had told him about, he restrained himself. He threw the little chick into Mayan's arms. Coo. Little Inghua is anxious, wanting to pounce into Di Mingju's arms again. Quack, 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 wah, wah, wah sound coming out of its mouth. Chapter 3199. Papa, cook a meal. Papa's cooking is the best, even better than blindfolded brother's cooking. Blindfolded brother cooks for Mom and Huang Wang every day, but Huang Wang still likes Papa's cooking the most. Di Mingju's sharp gaze suddenly turns to Mayan. Mayan holds her forehead and looks at the sky. At this moment, she really wants to chop up this stupid son of a chicken and steam him. Next, Diming-ju has an in-depth discussion with Mayan on the question of can I eat the dishes made by other pretty boys. The instigator, the little chick, has long been slapped back into the space by the irascible and jealous Jun Shangdarin. It was unknown when a beautiful courtyard had appeared in the middle of the mountains and fields. The water in the courtyard gurgles, the fragrance of flowers curls up, and the leaves rustle. This wasn't some kind of spatial treasure. It's an illusion created by Diming-ju's domain. Mellow spiritual power and fragrance fill the surroundings of the courtyard. Unknowingly, countless beautiful butterflies and glowing insects are attracted by the fragrance and spiritual power. They listen to the window lattices and fall among the stamens, intoxicated by the lingering and sweet spiritual power in the air. Inside the room, Mayan fiercely kicks Diming-ju away and angrily says, "You're not jealous at all. You're just using this as a pretext to make a fuss, seizing the opportunity to eat her clean." Diming-ju's eyes are filled with anger. His divine sense moves, and the illusion created by the domain disappears without a trace. As soon as Mayan remembers that what happened just now actually happened under the real sky, her face can't help but turn darker. Diming-ju, this bastard, is becoming more and more shameless. When they first met, he clearly didn't even know how to cut his own throat. Every time she teased him, he would only blush proudly. And now, TSK, the past is unbearable. Mayan can't help but sigh. Diming-ju suddenly grabs her hand and whispers in her ear, "This is punishment. Next time, Yin-yin, if you attract bees and butterflies again, your punishment will be doubled." He licks his lips and says slowly, "Ben-jun is looking forward to the next punishment." Mayan angrily says, "Who attracted bees and butterflies? I don't even know where this little pervert Li Weiran popped out from to bother me. Can you blame me? I'm innocent, okay?" As for eating his cooking, it couldn't be helped. The charm of delicious food was irresistible. When she said the last sentence, Mayan felt a little guilty. She couldn't possibly say that it was because of the familiar aura on Li Weiran that she couldn't completely hate him. Before this, she did not know where this sense of familiarity came from. But now that he thought about it, it was because of Diming-ju. However, she wouldn't dare to say this even if she was beaten to death. Otherwise, this man who was the reincarnation of a vinegar spirit would torment her to death. Of course, in these few hours, aside from the in-depth exchange, Diming-ju also gave her a brief account of what happened in the Shoshin continent. For example, the calamity of the collapse of the sky, and the sudden turn of events, the 9 stars and the moon. At that time, Muyin was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. She didn't expect that the commotion caused by her advancement would be known by everyone in the cultivation continent. The commotion it caused in the Shoshin continent was even greater. But in any case, her 9 stars and a moon can help Diming-ju and Xiaobao to be safe and sound and obtain victory. This is really too good. As Mayan is thinking, she hears Diming-ju whispering in her ear, "I don't know who triggered the 9 stars and a moon and saved Ben-jun's and Xiaobao's lives. Such a great favor. Does Mayan think that Ben-jun should repay it with my body?" Chapter 3200. As early as when she killed Lung Yuexia, Mayan understood that Diming-ju already knew her identity as a Shen musician. It's just that the two of them didn't point it out. Diming-ju gave her endless tolerance and pampering, letting her keep her little secret. And because of Qi Huang's existence, Mayan didn't choose to confess. So hearing Diming-ju say this, Mayan couldn't help but laugh. Who said that the one who triggers the 9 stars and the moon must be a woman? What if it's a handsome guy? He saved my son. I think it's better if I go and repay him with my body. You dare. Diming-ju clasps her waist, saying rather fiercely, "In this life, if you want to repay someone with your body, you can only give it to me." Mayan looks at him with a smile. Then, for the sake of fairness, can Jun Shang also only give it to me? Diming-ju says without hesitation, "In only you." The smile in Mayan's eyes deepens, her brows full of tenderness and sweetness. She doesn't know what kind of fate allowed her and Ming-ju to meet each other, know each other, and fall in love despite being separated by two worlds. But she will cherish this feeling and work hard for it until they can stay together forever, never to be separated. But then, Mayan remembers the current situation of the Xiaoxian continent, and she can't help but knit her brows. The Xiaoxian continent, which is like heaven in the eyes of mortals, has unexpectedly been invaded by ghosts, and it's so dangerous. Thinking that Xiao Bao almost died in a place she couldn't see, Mayan's heart tightens. She really wants to rush to the Xiaoxian continent right now and protect her Xiao Bao by her side. But the ladder to heaven is broken, and the space barrier passage collapsed. Now, Ming-ju has paid a heavy price that she doesn't know about. It's easier said than done for her to ascend to the Xiaoxian continent. Her hands are suddenly grasped. His tightly clenched fists were gently pinched by someone's fingers and opened them one by one. Seeing the red marks left on her palms, Ming-ju's face sinks. Bin-jun said, "Don't hurt yourself for anyone, not even for Xiao Bao." Mayan looks at Ming-ju, wanting to show a smile, but her eyes can't help but redden. Ming-ju, I miss Xiao Bao. I miss him very much. This kind of fragility, this kind of deep longing, she won't show it in front of others. Not even her fellow disciples of the Xiaoya sect. But only Ming-ju is different. She was the demoness in the eyes of the world. God Jun, the Lord of 6 stars, the leader of the Nether Flame Army, was invincible in their eyes. But only Mu Yin herself knows that she also has a soft spot. She can't help but feel panic, fear, and longing. She was afraid that she couldn't protect the people she cared about. She's also afraid that she won't be able to stay with Ming-ju and Xiao Bao for a long time. It's only in front of Ming-ju that she doesn't hide these fragile feelings. Ming-ju sighs helplessly. Reaching out, he pulls her into his embrace, his murmuring voice carrying a love that seeps into the bones. "I really don't know what to do with you. I originally wanted to spend more time with you and not let anyone disturb us." Mayan stares blankly at Ming-ju. She didn't understand what he meant. In the next moment, he felt a small body plunge into his embrace. A familiar sobbing voice came to her ears. "Mother! Mother! Xiao Bao finally sees you again." An hour later, Ming-ju's face is so gloomy that it could drip water as he looks at the mother and daughter intimately cuddling together. Chapter 32:01. Right now, he was filled with regret. He shouldn't have let Xiao Bao out of the portable space just because Mu Yin was sad. This little rascal was quite obedient when he was alone with her. As long as he's by Mu Yan's side, he will only snatch Mu Yan's attention away from him. For example, right now this little bastard was pulling a long face and complaining. "Mother, father is bad." Xiao Bao hugged Mu Yan's neck and snuggled in her arms. He said in a cold, childish voice, he told Xiao Bao that he wouldn't be able to see Nyangqin until 3 days later and told Xiao Bao to wait in the portable space. He clearly wants to monopolize Nyangqin. Mu Yin nods, sharing the same hatred with him. "Daddy is bad. We'll ignore him for 3 days." Xiao Bao nodded heavily. Then she looks at Ming-ju's unsightly complexion, and she can't help but soften her heart. 3 days is too long. Still 1 day is fine. Mu Yin snorts out a laugh. She lowered her head and planted a kiss on his soft and tender cheek. "All right, I'll listen to Xiao Bao and ignore him for a day." Nyangqin. Xiao Bao blushes and buries his whole body in Mayan's embrace, gently rubbing against her. Lung Meng's voice carried a hint of sobbing. "Mother, I miss you so much." Nyangqin also misses Xiao Bao. Mayan hugs him tightly in her arms, her voice also tinged with hoarseness. "Very, very much." "Mother." Xiao Bao suddenly raised his head and looked at Mu Yin with his big blue eyes. He said excitedly, "Daddy said that the floating island is different from the Xiaoxian continent. There is spiritual qi and immortal qi here. Even if Xiao Bao stays on the floating island, he can still cultivate." "Mother, Xiao Bao can stay by your side again." His small hands grabbed Muyan's clothes, his voice filled with apprehension. But little Bao hasn't broken through to golden immortal yet, so I can't protect Mother. Staying by Mother's side will only drag you down. Before he could finish his words, Mine has already abruptly pulled him into her arms and interrupted him. Her voice was so happy that she was practically floating. But he's not looking at Xiao Bao, but at Di Mingju. Di Mingju is what Xiao Bao said true? Could he really stay on the floating island? Are we really not going to separate anymore? Xiao Bao blankly stares at Mayan's ecstatic expression. A bright smile slowly blossomed on her originally taut face. That pair of ice-blue eyes that had been washed by water, at this moment, were clearer than the brightest sky, more resplendent than sapphires under the sunlight. It turned out that his mother didn't despise him for being too weak. It turns out that his mother also wants to be with him forever. Not waiting for Di Mingju to speak, Xiao Bao hugs Mayan's arm and rubs it in satisfaction. Nyangxin, it's true. Xiao Bao doesn't want to be separated from Mother ever again. Muyan picks him up and throws him into the air. Then, she hugs him again and kisses him heavily on his little face. All right, let's do it like before. Nyangxin and Xiao Bao will travel the floating island together. No matter how dangerous the floating island was. As long as she could be with her beloved Xiao Bao, she was not afraid of anything. The rims of Xiao Bao's eyes were red, and a rare brilliant smile that matched his age blossomed on his cold and adorable little face that had always been taut. Di Mingju's gaze tenderly looks at the mother and son, who are laughing happily. Even if Mayan knows that it would be best for Xiao Bao to leave her side and go to the Xiaoxin continent, Di Mingju knows that her heart has always been hiding unspeakable longing and worry. It's just that she didn't want them to worry, so she didn't show it. And Xiao Bao. Chapter 3202. In the Xiaoxin continent, he was very well-behaved, very obedient, so well-behaved that it made people feel sorry for him, and they also had a deep attachment to him. However, when Xiao Bao was only by his side, he had never revealed such a brilliant, pure, and childish smile. In Xiao Bao's heart, his mother is the most important. It's the same in Mayan's heart. Xiao Bao was the most important person to her in this world. Di Mingju's heart is a little soft, but also a little sour and dull pain. Even though he knew that he shouldn't, he still couldn't help but think about it. If Xiao Bao's biological father had not died, if this person appears in front of Mayan again, was there any room for him to intervene in such a family of three? Just as this thought flashes through his mind, a pair of small hands suddenly wraps around Di Mingju's neck. Xiao Bao blushed and planted a soft kiss on his cheek. Daddy, don't be sad. Mommy and I will definitely go to your side as soon as possible. Muyan also very readily follows his good advice and kisses him on the cheek. Grinning, she says, be obedient and wait for us in the polar domain. You're not allowed to fool around, otherwise, when we get back, we'll make you look good. Go back. Muyan used this word. Di Mingju stares blankly. The dull pain in his chest is instantly replaced by softness. Who would have thought that in the next moment, she would hear Xiao Bao complain in a crisp and childish voice. Oh, that's right, Mother. In the Xiaoxin continent, there was an old auntie who confessed to Father and said bad things about Mother. She also said that Daddy sacrificed himself to save her, so she wanted to repay him with her body. Di Mingju's complexion stiffens, staring incredulously at his son. Then he turns his head and meets Mayan's smiling, yet not smiling eyes. How did the Emperor reprimand me just now? Flirting with flowers and grass, huh? Di Mingju keeps a straight face, expressionless as he says, in Ben Jun's eyes, apart from Yin Yin, there is no distinction between men and women. There has never been such a thing as risking one's life to save someone or devoting oneself to someone else. Mayan crosses her arms over her chest. It's not up to you to say it. It's up to me to say it. Come, tell me this fairy's name first. How did he meet you? How many times had they held hands? What's the most intimate contact? Don't tell me it's another betrothed. Ugh. The clear and crisp, questioning voice instantly disappeared. Just like that, Diming-ju takes the two of them into his arms. Then, he covers Xiao Bao's eyes and firmly stops that chattering mouth of his. Ben-jun will say it again. There is no child marriage. Ben-jun only has one fiancé, Jun Mayan. Mayan wrinkles her nose. She's very dissatisfied with Jun Shang's lenient attitude of not being honest. You want me to explain the situation in every detail. You don't even let go of the little baby I met in the gravel hill, but you yourself don't report it. Diming-ju, your ideological awareness needs to be improved. Halfway through her words, Muyin suddenly widened her eyes and exclaimed, "Oh no, I actually forgot about the person waiting in the gravel hill." Cultivation Continent, Linglong Island. Yu Yanran stared blankly at the elixir in her hand, her expression miserable as tears rolled down her cheeks. As soon as Huang Shouchuan came in and saw her like this, he felt extremely distressed and repeatedly advised, "Miss, how can you let this thing hurt your body again? Since Diming-ju is heartless, why do you still care about him? There are many good men in the world. You can definitely find one who is wholeheartedly devoted to you." As he said this, Huang Shouchuan's eyes hid deep affection and pain. But when Yin Ran looked at him, it was very well hidden. Yu Yin Ran stared at him and suddenly whispered, "Big brother Huang, you said before that you obtained the pill recipe for the magnificent quicksand from Lung Yuexia. Is that true?" Chapter 3203. Huang Shouchuan stares blankly, then nods. "I did get it. Although this Fenghua quicksand is a top-secret Dan recipe, it's hard to find and doesn't have much practical use. Let me have a look." Huang Shouchuan grunts. "Miss, what do you want this Fenghua quicksand recipe for?" Suddenly, his eyes widen. "You don't tell me you want to use it yourself? Miss, please reconsider." Yu Yanran bites her lip and doesn't answer him. Instead, she whispers, "Brother Huang, don't ask. Just give me the recipe. By the way, is there any news from Weiran?" Hearing the name Li Weiran, Huang Shouchuan frowns in disgust and shakes his head. "Miss, this Li Weiran is sinister and vicious. He has the ambition of a wolf. You must not trust him too much. Now that we know that Mayan is on the floating island through his soul-chasing curse, we can send people to kill that Shun musician remnant. This way we can get rid of any future troubles." Yu Yanran is a bit tempted, but then she frowns and gently shakes her head. "Although I found a space-shuttling magic weapon that can replace the Mirror of Illusions, I tried several times and couldn't go to other planes. I heard from the Polar Domain's Tianshua Palace that the space barrier passage collapsed, making it impossible to connect to other planes. It will take at least 3 months, at most several years, to recover." Huang Shouchuan stares blankly, looking at Yu Yanran with some distress and worry. "Miss, you want to use the Fenghua quicksand because of this? Jun Mayan is on the floating island, and the passage between the Xiaoxing continent and the floating island has temporarily collapsed. Diming-ju, who is in the Xiaoxing continent, may not even know where Mayan is gone. In this way, as long as Mayan dies on the floating island, Yu Yanran takes the Fenghua quicksand and turns into Mayan, going to Diming-ju's side. She can easily assume Mayan's identity and become Diming-ju's beloved." Yu Yanran bites her lip and doesn't answer. But not answering is tantamount to tacit approval. Huang Shouchuan only feels his heart clench into a ball. His miss is so holy, noble, and beautiful. How can she be compared to a mere Shun musician remnant, a vulgar mortal woman? He wanted Yu Yanran to put down her pride and pretend to be someone else to win his favor. How humiliating was this for her? "Miss, why do you have to do this? Is that Diming-ju really worth it for you to pay so much for him?" Huang Shouchuan bitterly says, "As long as Jun Mayan is killed, you will have plenty of time to slowly win Di-jun's heart. With your talent, looks, and conduct, as long as you are willing to take the initiative to get close to you, which man wouldn't fall head over heels for you?" Yu Yanran smiled bitterly. 2 teardrops flowed down from her eyes once more. "Big brother Huang, you don't know that the imperial monarch doesn't just not care about me. He simply detests me, and sees me as nothing more than worthless grass. Furthermore, the medicine king of the polar domain can sense the aura of the soul-chasing curse on my body. I'm afraid that the Emperor has already become suspicious of me. If I don't take action now, I won't be able to obtain the Emperor's love. I'm afraid that even Junmayan's death will be blamed on me. At that time, it will be a calamity for our Linglong Island. Huang Shouchuan turned pale with fright. How could this be? Mrs. almost never personally touched the curse. How could you be tainted by its aura? Then he gritted his teeth and said, "It's all because of Li Weiran. I knew that he was a jinx that descended from the heavens. Miss, you shouldn't have saved it back then." Chapter 3204. Yu Yanran shakes her head. I thought he was pitiful at first, with that pair of eyes. Pausing, she frowns. I didn't expect him to have that kind of temperament. But in any case, he helped in eradicating the remnants of the Shun musicians. Li Weiran relied on our Linglong Island's protection to survive until now. Isn't it reasonable to do something in return? Now it's just killing a Shun musician remnant who hasn't even reached Golden Immortal, and it's been delayed for so long. I don't know if he's really doing things for our Linglong Island. Miss, why do you keep protecting him? Yu Yanran wipes away her tears and rebukes. Brother Huang, why do you always make things difficult for Weiran? In my heart, only you, Big Brother Huang, are the most important people who have always been by my side. Even if I recognize Weiran as my younger brother, how can he be compared to Brother Huang? Huang Shouchuan's face turns red, but his eyes reveal deep joy and affection. But he quickly hides it, saying worriedly, "Even if you kill Mayan and have Fenghua quicksand, miss, it won't be easy for you to pretend to be Mayan. Otherwise, those two idiots Lung Qingwan and Lung Yuexia wouldn't have died so unsightly." Yu Yanran shows a well-thought-out expression. Brother Huang, don't worry. I've already instructed the people who went to the Yenwu continent to investigate Mayan's life in detail. 3 months later, when the Stronghold's passageway is reopened and they return, I'll know how Jun Mayan and the Emperor met, and how. Speaking up to here, Yu Yanran's face, which has always been aloof from worldly affairs, shows a painful hatred, and how she had a child. In addition, Brother Huang, you don't know that Weiran still hasn't returned from killing Mayan. It's not that he's incompetent. Rather, I'll let him have more contact with Mayan and record her usual temperament, cultivation, and techniques with a Mirage Stone. In this way, after Mayan's death, I can completely replace her position and stay by Emperor's side. Huang Shouchuan feels a stabbing pain in his heart, but he still reluctantly says, "Miss, this method is really good. Even if you'll be recognized after a long time, young Miss can first cook the raw rice with the Emperor and use the secret technique of our Linglong Island to give birth to a new heir for the polar domain." The higher a man or woman's cultivation base was, the less suitable their bodies were for bearing children. Especially when one reached the Xian immortal realm. One's bones would be completely forged into the immortal bones of the immortal realm. One would not be considered a human anymore. For the sake of balance, it was almost impossible for women above the Xian immortal realm to conceive children. As for men above the mystic immortal realm, even if they could have children with mortal women of low cultivation, the children would usually not live to adulthood. However, there was a secret method on the Linglong Island that could transform a woman above the mysterious immortal realm into a mother body suitable for pregnancy. Furthermore, even a child born to a man with an extremely high cultivation base would not have any defects. This was also one of the reasons why Tong Huinyan wanted Yu Yanran to be the mistress of the polar domain. Huang Shouchuan faintly says, "Wait until Miss gives birth to the polar domain's future successor. Then we'll think of a way to kill that vile spawn that Jun Mayan left behind. At that time, even if Di Jun discovers that you're not Jun Mayan, so what? Could it be that he'd be willing to kill you and his only child?" Yu Yanran's eyes reveal a look of reluctance. In the end, the child is innocent. Chapter 3205. Miss, you mustn't be soft-hearted, ah. If you don't remove the roots, the spring wind will blow deep. Do you want to let the remnants of the Shun musicians continue to harm the world? Yu Yanran grits her teeth and nods. Huang Shouchuan. Now we're just waiting for Li Weiran to quietly kill Mayan on the floating island. Quietly? I'm afraid not. Huang Shouchuan hasn't finished speaking when a low and clear voice comes from outside the house. Dimingju is by Mayan's side right now. What about me? Yu Yanran abruptly turns around and sees the white-clothed youngster slowly walking in from the door. Her complexion greatly changes. Weiran, what do you mean by that? Floating island, gravel hill. Dead bird, get out of the way and let us out. The hole is about to be closed. The little phoenix flaps his wings and says methodically, No, pretty sister said we can't go out, so we can't go out. A group of fiendish people are about to rush forward again. The little phoenix unceremoniously spits out a fireball. In a split second, a mournful scream comes out from the crowd. The blazing flames slowly disappear, and the righteous indignation of the crowd also disappears, leaving only panic, fear, and despair. The little phoenix shakes his wings, bored to death, and buries his head to sleep. Behind him, the hole that Mayan blasted open with her array-breaking technique finally slowly disappears. The thick fog becomes seamless again, without the slightest flaw. The gravel hill and the floating island outside become two different worlds. Thump! Someone kneels on the ground, tears mixed with the mud on his face flowing down. It's over, it's over. We can't get out, we can't get out anymore. We still can't leave this damned place. Boo-hoo. This person's cries seem to ignite the suffocating sadness in the hearts of the others. The original inhabitants of the gravel hill are fine. They've never left the gravel hill since they were born. For them, no matter how beautiful and dreamy the floating island is, it's only an abstract and one-sided description, unable to arouse much emotion in their hearts. But those wastes who were thrown into the gravel hill, even in their dreams, they want to get out of this hellish place. With great difficulty, they finally see hope. However, all of this has turned into despair. Thump, thump, thump. More and more people knelt down, tears streaming down their faces. Some cursed, some pounded the ground in anger, and some questioned why the heavens were treating them this way. Many natives, seeing that it was impossible to leave this place, simply took a lot of rewards from Mu Yin and left. Ruan Yang sat on the ground in a daze. The bewildered anticipation in her eyes was gradually replaced by despair. Is she really not coming back? Has our hope been dashed once again? Butcher laughed bitterly. You should have guessed it long ago, right? Who would be willing to carry a bunch of burdens like us? Little Monkey said angrily, That woman is really not a good person. She promised to help us, but she took away my dagger. Bastard, bastard. I shouldn't have trusted her. Mother. The little monkey rushed over to wipe away the tears on Ruan Yang's face. Mother, don't be sad. If that stinky woman doesn't bring you out, I'll bring you out in the future. The next time I see that bitch, I'll definitely beat her up to vent your anger for you, Mother. Oh, really? I really want to know how you're going to beat me up. The girl's voice, which was like the sound of nature, suddenly rang out, causing the expressions of everyone, who was originally shrouded in a gloomy fog, to freeze. Chapter 32:06. Ruan Yang and the others raised their heads in a daze and looked at the figure that slowly appeared from the thick fog. The woman who had been wearing an ugly mask had revealed her true appearance at some point. Even in a dirty place like the gravel hill that was full of dust and stench, her peerless beauty could not be concealed. She had jade bones and ice skin. She was beautiful and enchanting. When she smiled lightly, her peach blossom eyes were full of youth and overflowing with color. The gray fog that separated the two worlds was broken again, and a strong aura of spiritual power blew in. It blew the girl's clothes and long hair, and also woke up the people in the gravel hill. She's back, someone called out softly, with a cry of confusion and hope. She really came back to save us. Am I dreaming? Can we really get out of the gravel hill? The butcher opened his mouth to say something, but found that his throat seemed to be blocked by something. He could not help but look back at his brothers, only to see that everyone was so excited that they could not control themselves. He was obviously a tall and strong man, but his eyes could not help but turn red. The butcher could not help but look at the drunkard in the wheelchair. He saw that the man's expression was calm, as if there were no waves. But when he looked down, he could see that his hands were tightly clenched into fists. The butcher turned his gaze to Ruan Yang. The two looked at each other, and hot tears rolled down from their eyes. The heavens had finally heard their prayers. They had waited for salvation. The little monkey held Ruan Yang's hand tightly, and his eyes were wide open, looking forward without blinking. He did not even realize that his mother was crying. A scene from a long time ago appeared in his mind. At that time, his mother was bullied by a bad man, and he could do nothing but hug his mother and cry. Later, his mother told him, "They will get out. One day, they will get out of this place." The little monkey asked, "Won't mother be bullied by bad people if we get out?" "Yes." "Then when can we get out?" The little monkey remembered that his mother's expression was gloomy for a moment, and then she said with a bit of trance, "Maybe one day, the gods will hear our prayers and send an envoy to save us." So after that day, the little monkey would pray to the heavens every night, hoping that the gods would quickly send an envoy to save them. However, what awaited him was disappointment that grew with each passing day. After that, the little monkey no longer believed in the existence of God's messenger and savior in this world. However, at this moment, as he looked at the beautiful woman who broke through the thick fog and slowly walked towards him, there was only one sentence in his mind. It turned out that there really was a divine messenger in this world who had come to save them. So, his mother didn't lie to him. "Pretty sister." Seeing the figure coming out of the thick fog, little Phoenix happily rushed over, wanting to throw himself into Mayan's arms. However, its movement suddenly stopped. A pair of round eyes fall behind Mayan. There stood a boy who was even more exquisite and adorable than an elf. He was very young, but his expression was ice-cold, and his whole body exuded an awe-inspiring aura. Little Phoenix stared blankly at the little boy, tears slowly gathering in his eyes. Then, she burst into tears and threw herself into the little boy's arms. "Wah, little big brother, you're finally here to see Chio-Chio. Chio-Chio thought you didn't want me anymore." Woo-woo-woo. Xiao Bao's little face was taut as he rubbed little Phoenix's head. His childish voice carried a rare trace of gentleness. "Thank you, Chio-Chio, for accompanying Yangqin." Chapter 32:07. Little Phoenix was immediately appeased, happily burying his head in Xiao Bao's arms and rubbing it. Although the beautiful sister was also very good, it still loved the big brother the most. Little Phoenix had just rubbed for a while when a furry snow-white ball arched out. The fat rabbit twisted its big buttocks and directly pushed Little Phoenix away, occupying the most advantageous position in Lil Bao's arms. His round, mung bean-like eyes slanted to the side, arrogantly and disdainfully, as if he were declaring his sovereignty. Tears immediately welled up in the little Phoenix's eyes, feeling wronged. However, the fat rabbit had always been domineering, so it didn't dare to argue and could only obediently lie on Xiao Bao's shoulder. Buzz, buzz, buzz. When the fat rabbit came out, the Bishia's sword, which had finally recovered its strength after resting for a few days, immediately came over. "Damned rabbit, you only know how to fight for favor all day long. Bullying such a cute little Phoenix. Do you have any shame? Isn't it just fighting for favor? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Did I watch so many palace dramas for nothing? Little master, you have to arrange us little brothers in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm a great socialist youth, and it's already very unfair for me to be an artifact spirit. If I can't be the #1 follower, then I definitely won't do it." The fat rabbit howled and bit the Bishia sword with its teeth. "Get lost. The little master loves Bunny the most. There is no other." Xiao Bao. He looked expressionlessly at the little guys making a fuss on him and was about to speak. Suddenly, he felt a weight on his head. A furry little yellow ball landed on his head. Gugu G. Brother. It was Big Brother. Huang Wang finally he saw her brother again. Big Brother, are you guys playing some interesting game? Huang Wang also wanted to play. Mu Yin looked at her son being hung all over by the brat and revealed a rare, bewildered expression. She couldn't help but laugh. She stroked Xiao Bao's head, but there was an expression of watching a good show on her face. She had absolutely no intention of helping her precious son solve his problem. Instead, he slowly walked to the front of the drunkard maniac and said, "I would like to discuss the subsequent arrangements with you." "Please wait a moment," Drunkard said in a low voice. Then he struggled to get out of the wheelchair. Yes, he rolled down in a sorry state. With the tendons and veins in his hands and feet broken, he spent a great deal of effort to get himself to properly kneel in front of Mayan. This one is Wei Mian, nicknamed the Drunkard Lunatic. My cultivation system is that of a battle general. From now on, I would like to request Master's guidance. Mu Yin raises an eyebrow. Master. The drunkard looks up and grins at Mayan, revealing a smile. Yes, Master. We asked Miss June to lend us a hand, so we can't just not give her anything in return. So, for the rest of my life, I will be at Master's disposal. My only request is that Master can allow me to take some time to settle my personal grudges. As soon as Wei Mian finished speaking, Rui Nyang, Butcher, and the rest knelt down as well. Greetings, Master. Mayan crosses her arms over her chest, looking at these people with a smile that isn't a smile. You guys have a good plan. Since I accepted you as my servants, I have to be responsible for your safety and heal your injuries. You still have to clean up your personal grudges. Wei Mian looked straight at Mu Yin, not dodging in the slightest. Even if he is in such a sorry state right now, even crippled, his eyes are brimming with disdainful self-confidence. Mu Yin can't help but wonder where his self-confidence comes from. Chapter 3208. Wei Mian said, Yes, but I can assure Master that you will not suffer a loss if you accept us as servants. Oh, then how are you going to prove it? As soon as the voice fell, Mu Yin felt a cold aura passing through the air. Before she noticed, this aura began to invade her sea of consciousness. But it was different from the divine sense that wanted to invade her sea of consciousness in previous battles. This energy body was very soothing and warm, and even had a guiding meaning. It made people unconsciously want to accept, tolerate, and then surrender. A battle general? Mu Yin murmured, looking at Wei Mian with a hint of amazement in her eyes. It's really interesting. She had no intention of surrendering at all. But the sea of consciousness within her body began to wrap around Wei Mian's spiritual energy body, analyzing and combing it little by little. She instinctively wanted to assimilate this spiritual body into her own sea of consciousness. Wei Mian suddenly opened his eyes, and the divine sense that he released was almost withdrawn. His eyes were full of shock as he looked at Mu Yin, even though he already knew that this girl was not simple. How could ordinary people use spiritual power in the Gravel Hill? How could they casually destroy the barrier that had existed for tens of thousands of years? Even going in and out of the Gravel Hill was as easy as eating a meal. But these exclamations were far less shocking than when he probed Mu Yan's sea of consciousness at this moment. Was that really the sea of consciousness? It was boundless, with no end in sight. She was clearly a powerful combat cultivator, but her sea of consciousness was 100 times more vast and profound than a battle general like him. If this girl chose to become a battle general, how invincible would she be? Wei Mian stared blankly at Mu Yin, not even hearing what she said. Boss, what are you still doing? It wasn't until the butcher pushed him that he suddenly woke up. Turning his head, he saw the ecstatic faces of the butcher and Rui Nyang. Didn't you hear what Miss June said? She is willing to accept us as her servants. Wei Mian suddenly came back to his senses. A big smile bloomed on his thin face, and he bowed. Wei Mian pays respect to the new master. Rui Nyang pays respect to the new master. The butcher pays respect to the new master. Tens of thousands of years ago, the stairway to heaven broke, destroying the only way for mortals to enter the immortal world. Tens of thousands of cultivators had finally reached the tribulation stage, but they were unable to ascend and could only die of old age on the barren land. It was also at this time that a summoner who could control the divine beast, Bai Zhe, appeared, Lan Xiaozi. Lan Xiaozi used his summoned beasts as fuel and his own body as a vessel to refine a heavenly holy item. In the end, he let his son use the heaven-warping holy artifact refined from his own flesh and blood to poke a hole in the sky. As a result, a large piece of land on the Xiaoxian continent collapsed and floated between the two continents. This was the floating island. Apart from the tens of thousands of tribulation-passing cultivators who came to the floating island with Lan Xiaozi's son, there were many other cultivators. There were also many relatives and friends of the Lan family. These people reproduced, cultivated, and built dynasties, clans, and sects on the floating island. Gradually, this continent developed into a prosperous world that was completely different from the cultivation continent. It was different from the cultivation continent, where there was only spiritual power and immortal qi. The energy distribution on the floating island was 60% spiritual energy, 30% immortal energy, and a mixture of other energies. Therefore, the cultivation speed here was much faster than in the cultivation continent. Chapter 3209. You mean more than 50% of the cultivators here have reached the golden immortal level? Hearing Di Mingju's words, Mu Yin couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, even though she was mentally prepared. Di Mingju put the peeled and tender fruit into her mouth, then lightly said, Hollow immortal, golden immortal, profound immortal, immortal king, immortal venerable, immortal emperor. These are the levels commonly used in the Xiaoxian continent. But the floating island, like the Xiaoxian continent, has its own cultivation and level system. Mu Yin had long known that in the Xiaoxian continent, the first of the 9th rank of hollow immortal corresponded to the Xiaoxian continent's fasting stage to the crossing tribulation stage. On the floating island, it is usually divided into the mortal cultivation realm, mysterious life realm, mountain opening realm, earth opening realm, sea splitting realm, and heaven breaking realm. The mortal cultivation realm corresponds to mortals who have yet to form immortal bones, that is, hollow immortals. The mysterious life realm corresponds to the 1st and 2nd rank of golden immortals. The mountain opening realm corresponds to the 3rd and 4th rank of golden immortals. The earth opening realm corresponds to the 5th and 6th rank of golden immortals. The sea splitting realm corresponds to the 7th and 8th rank of golden immortals. The heaven breaking realm corresponds to the 9th rank of golden immortals. When one reaches the peak of the heaven breaking realm, that is, the 9th rank of golden immortals, all the bones in the body will be tempered into immortal bones. After enduring the forging of the heavenly tribulation, the immortal bones will be formed, and the body of a profound immortal will be formed. After becoming a profound immortal, I can go to the Xiaoxian continent? Mu Yin asked while sucking the fruit Di Mingju handed her. Feeling the sweetness in her mouth, she praised, Delicious. More. Thus, Jun Shangduran immediately continued to peel the fruit, remove the core, and feed it to his fiancée. He explained, After becoming a profound immortal, the heavenly Tao has tacitly approved that you have the qualification to pass through the space barrier passage to the upper realm. But directly ascending without the help of any spatial treasure will cause harm to the body and soul. So, without my permission, even if you reach the profound immortal realm, you must not open the space barrier passage at will. Do you hear me? Mu Yin nodded with a smile and couldn't help but sigh. I thought I could go to the Xiaoxian continent after ascending. I didn't expect that I would have to come to the floating island. It seems like we can only continue to live separately. Di Mingju's face sinks. Suddenly, he grabbed her and bit her lips heavily. Ben Jun's patience is limited. If you make me stay alone in this room again, be careful that on our wedding night, Ben Jun will settle the score with you with interest. This heartless little girl, don't think that I can't see the schadenfreude in her eyes. Ahem. Mu Yin hurriedly restrained her ridiculing thoughts, sat up, and said, "Actually, I think it's a very good thing to be able to come to the floating island." Di Ming Ju grinds his teeth. Don't be angry. Listen to me." Mu Yin promptly hooks her arms around a certain person's neck to comfort him. "I've heard about my father, Jun Xiwen, in the Xiojin continent." As soon as these words are spoken, the gloominess on Di Ming Ju's face is swept away as expected. He turned to look at her with a burning gaze. Mayan smiles and says, 20 years ago, he and my mother should have come to the floating island. I just asked Wei Mian about it." The forces of the floating island can be roughly divided into 1 country, 3 sects, 6 great families, and 8 sections. Among these 6 great families, there's a Ning family, and my mother is called Ning Yanxin. Back then, she was taken away by the people of the floating island. And my father should have chased me all the way here after sending me back to the Yanwu continent. Chapter 32:10. The corner of Di Ming Ju's mouth slowly hooks up into a cold smile. Father-in-law is actually here? Then I really have to pay a proper visit. His mouth says father-in-law, but Di Ming Ju's expression can simply be said to be gnashing his teeth. Previously, he almost mobilized all the power of the polar domain, turned the entire Xiojin continent upside down, and still couldn't find any trace of Junxi. He didn't expect that this father-in-law, who vainly tried to marry Mayan to someone else, and didn't even ask the reason for the marriage contract, was actually on the floating island. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Father-in-law? Junshang, aren't you saying it too smoothly? The son-in-law in my father's heart is someone else." Before he can finish speaking, Mayan is already left with a vigorous stride. Flirting is flirting, but her life is still important. However, Mayan hasn't taken 2 steps when she feels something wrapping around her waist, making her unable to escape. She looks down and sees that her waist is wrapped in a silk thread that's thinner than a hair. Under the light of the candlelight in the room, it emits gold, silver, and blue lights. Mayan can't help but reach out and touch it, but finds that these silk threads feel very strange. It's cold to the touch, but her fingertips don't feel cold at all. On the contrary, there's a kind of warmth. Under her gentle touch, it's incredibly smooth. Oh, as she's touching it, she hears a man's low, stifled groan. Mayan looks up in astonishment, and her fingertips make Di Ming Ju's ears slightly redden. A pair of ice blue eyes seem to be tainted with a gentle and charming color. Immediately after, her waist tightens, and she's pulled to Di Ming Ju's side. Mayan doesn't panic at all. Instead, she grins and touches the silk thread on her waist. "What is this?" Di Ming Ju says in a hoarse voice, "Don't touch it. That's my natal magic weapon." Natal magic weapon? This time, Mayan is even more surprised. In the end, what kind of natal magic weapon could have such a thread-like shape? Moreover, why does he have this kind of reaction when she touches Di Ming Ju's natal magic weapon? Mayan is full of curiosity, and she can't help but take out her 7 absolute sword. It becomes small, and she gently rubs it against the blue-gold thread on her waist. She clearly didn't react at all. "Ju Mayan." Di Ming Ju presses down on her hands, gnashing his teeth in anger. "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Mu Yin has an innocent look on her face. "Deliberately what?" A sly smile appeared in his eyes. She's not a fool. She only needs to look at Di Ming Ju's reaction to know. His natal magic treasure should be very special. It should not be casually touched by others, especially by him. Otherwise, Mayan smiles like a little fox, her fingertips gently caressing those smooth, ice-cold threads. "Di Ming Ju, you're being unreasonable. You're the one who wrapped your natal magic treasure around me. If you don't want me to touch it, you can take it back." Di Ming Ju's Adam's apple bobbed up and down, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He says softly, "I want to take it back because I want to feel a little more Mayan by my side." Mayan's hand pauses, then the playful smile on her face can't help but turn into a bone-chilling gentleness. "Hey, you're breaking the rules." Who did you learn how to say such sweet nothings? Ming-ju suddenly pushes her away, faintly saying, "Now say it again. Do Bin-jun have the qualifications to call you father-in-law?" Mayan couldn't help but laugh. "Yes, of course you do. The petty and jealous Jun Shangdarin really hasn't changed a bit." Chapter 32:11. After laughing, Mayan slowly restrains the smile on her face. Her expression is solemn as she looks at the man in front of her. She enunciates each word. "Ming-ju, leave this matter to me, okay? I will find my biological father and ask him to cancel the engagement. Then, I will personally introduce the person I like to him." Seeing that Ming-ju is about to speak, Mu Yin covers his mouth. Her peach blossom eyes are like rippling water, just like how you would handle the troubles around you, and not let me suffer any grievances. I don't want you to suffer any grievances. This is my problem, and I should deal with it myself. What if he doesn't agree? He went without saying who he was. After Ming-ju asks this, he doesn't wait for mine to answer, and the corner of his mouth hooks up into a cold arc. No, there's no such possibility. Bin-jun will definitely make him agree. If he was really stubborn, he would just beat him up in secret until he agreed. Just as Mu Yan is about to speak, Ming-ju's complexion suddenly changes. A blood-red light shines from his palm. Then, the tricolored thread that was wrapped around her waist retracted. Ming-ju frowns, his expression gloomy. Mu Yan's heart thumped. What happened? When Ming-ju looks at her, the gloominess between his brows fades away, turning into gentleness. "It's nothing. I have to go back to the Xiaoxian continent. It'll probably be several months before I can come back." Hearing this, Mu Yan felt a sense of loss in her heart. Then, he couldn't help but knit his brows. "You said before that the stairway to heaven broke and the space barrier passage collapsed. Ming-ju, how did you and Xiao Bao come to the floating island?" Her hand caressed the space between Ming-ju's eyebrows where a red mark had just appeared. "Did you use some method to harm yourself?" It has to be said that Mayan's intuition is quite keen. Even Ming-ju's expression stiffens for a moment. But very quickly, he revealed a faint, disdainful smile, held her hand, and said, "It is indeed a little troublesome, which is why I said that the next time I come would be a few months later. But Yin, aren't you looking down on Bin-jun too much? This isn't the first time Bin-jun has forcefully torn apart space." Mayan slightly narrows her eyes at him, not knowing whether she believes him or not. Ming-ju can't help but laugh as he pulls her into his arms. "All right, I admit that it will indeed damage some spirit essence, but it's not a big deal." After a pause, he says in a hoarse voice, Yin, don't worry. I absolutely won't abandon you like Xiao Bao's biological father and let you be lonely and depressed." Mu Yin, she looked at the man in front of her with a complicated expression. She hesitated to tell him the truth. Mu Yin really didn't expect that the words, "I only love Xiao Bao's biological father," back then would actually become a curse. Was she the one who was caught in a cocoon of her own making? Mine coughs lightly. After a long while, she says, "In fact, Xiao Bao's and my biological father isn't." However, before she could finish speaking, she's interrupted by Ming-ju's cold face. "Don't mention him. Mu Yin, you were the one who brought it up first. Only the prefectural officials were allowed to set fires, but the common people were not allowed to light lamps." Ming-ju's forehead brightens again. A cold glint flashes through his eyes. He reaches out and presses the back of Mine's neck. He lowers his head and touches her lips. "Protect yourself. Don't flirt around." Before he could finish his words, the man's figure is already slowly fading away. The door to the room is pushed open with a bang, and Xiao Bao rushes in. Seeing Ming-ju's figure slowly disappearing, he couldn't help but shout and rush over, "Daddy!" Chapter 32:12. Xiao Bao pounces on empty air and almost falls to the ground. Mu Yin hugs him in her arms. His little face is taut and his eyes are slightly red. He looks up at Mu Yin. "Nyangqin, why did Daddy leave without saying goodbye? Is he angry with Xiao Bao?" Mu Yin rarely sees his aggrieved look. She can't help but smile and rub his head. How could that be? Daddy has to go back to the polar domain to deal with something. He will be back in a few months at most. Xiao Bao nods, but he is still a little listless. Only when Mu Yin takes him into the Tian Mo Qin space and uses the Shun musician skills to construct this stellar fantasy, letting him play with the fat rabbit and the others, does his mood slowly improve. This time, the astral fantasy realm that Mu Yin constructed was the playground that Bai Xie described. Mu Yin doesn't know what a playground is, but Bai Xie said that in their time and space, the playground was every child's favorite. Slides, merry-go-rounds, roller coasters. Mu Yin spent a lot of effort to recreate these scenes with the realm of stars. Then, it's just as Bai Xie said. The little guys play like crazy. Even Xiao Bao, who has always been calm and not like a child, has a pair of ice-blue eyes that look like stars falling all over the sky. The Tian Mo Qin space is filled with cheerful laughter. Mu Yin leisurely plucks the strings, and her eyes can't help but fall on Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao is now 7 years old, but he still looks like a 5-year-old child. He hasn't grown much. Her mind unconsciously recalls what Bailey Yin-Lu said at that time. Natural immortal body can't live past 10 years old. It stands to reason that Xiao Bao has now left the Yinwu continent, that barren world. It's impossible for him to face the tribulation of 10 years old again. But now, looking at Xiao Bao's small body and face, Mu Yan's heart unconsciously raises a hidden worry. Before this, she never seriously thought about who Xiao Bao's biological father is. Or, she has been avoiding thinking about it. Because even if it's separated by a previous life and this life, that memory of the past is really not good for her. She used to try to distinguish Xiao Bao from his biological father. She doesn't want to add even a little bit of her hatred for the man who violated her on Xiao Bao. But unknowingly, this hatred and stubbornness seemed to have slowly faded. Perhaps too much time had passed, and the pain, humiliation, and hatred of the past had slowly dissipated with the passage of time. Or maybe it was because she was too happy right now. So much so that when he thought of the nightmarish memories, there was no more heart-wrenching pain. Also because it was diluted. That was why she could think rationally about the bloodline flowing in Xiao Bao's body. Xiao Bao was born with an immortal physique. In a world like the Yinwu continent, where the vital energy of heaven and earth is heterogeneous, it can leave behind the purest immortal body in the world. That man's cultivation must be very high. But why would such a person appear in the Yinwu continent? Also, why did he lock himself up in that dark cave? Too much time has passed. Mayan can't remember many details. Only that pair of deep blue eyes that were dyed red with bloodlust was something that she could still remember clearly to this day. Who was that man? If one day, something really happened to Xiao Bao's immortal physique, did she have to find this person in order to save Xiao Bao? Should she tell Di Ming Ju about this? But when he thinks about letting Di Ming Ju know about his unbearable past. Chapter 32:13. Mu Yin suddenly closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and presses her fingers on the zither strings again. The Shin musician skill, Cloud Dispersing Mist, launches. The soothing and melodious sound of the zither slowly dispels the remaining fear and demonic barrier in her heart. Qi Huang swaggers down from the roller coaster, no longer participating in the children's games. Instead, he goes to Mu Yan's side. Isn't it just a man? Why are you so sad? Hearing Qi Huang's sour voice, Mu Yin comes back to her senses. What's wrong? Seeing her pale complexion, Qi Huang restrains his arrogant expression and asks nervously. Mu Yin shakes her head, lightly saying, "It's nothing. As you said, do you miss my man?" "Damn!" Qi Huang curses, flustered and exasperated. "If you can't bear to part with him, you can follow Di Ming Ju to the Xiaoxian continent. What are you still doing on the floating island?" Mu Yin chuckles. "Didn't you hear what Di Ming Ju said? Now that the stairway to heaven is broken and the space barrier passage has collapsed, tell me how to get there? What's more?" She pauses, then says, "On this floating island, I really still have a lot of things that I haven't finished yet." Qi Huang curls his lips. I know. find your cheap fiancé to cancel the engagement, and at most add those old matters of your fellow apprentices. More than that. Mu Yin interrupts him, reaching out to grab the air, and a map appears in her palm. If I'm not mistaken, some of the materials needed to repair the Tian Mo Qin should have fallen on the floating island. Saying that, she hands a map to Qi Huang. She sees that the map that originally showed the Xiojin continent has now changed. The whole map has been divided into two parts at some point, with the words floating island and Xiojin continent written on it. Only, the map of the floating island is brightly colored and the mountains and rivers are very clear. There's also a white circle drawn on the periphery of the entire continent, emitting a faint luster. The map of the Xiojin continent is dim, blurry, and incomplete, making it impossible to see what's drawn on it. Huh? Qi Huang stares blankly, grabs the map, and studies it carefully. After looking at it for a while, he can't help but curse. The Shin music sect is a group of idiots. They actually threw away all the materials needed to repair the 7 strings separately. Qi Huang said a long time ago that the Tian Mo Qin needs to be repaired 3 times. The first time is to repair the Guqin spirit. As the Tian Mo Qin's device spirit, 7 brilliance begins to appear in the space. The second time was to repair the zither. The profound heaven orb, scarlet blaze metal, and profound ghost wood were thrown into the antiquity tower and the woodfern secret realm, respectively. The third time was to repair the strings. 7 strings, corresponding to 7 kinds of materials. This is also the last restoration of the Tian Mo Qin. When the third restoration is complete, the Tian Mo Qin will be able to advance to its complete form, restoring its heroic bearing that made the creatures of the 3 realms tremble with fear at the mere mention of its name. But it's very clear that repairing the Tian Mo Qin for the 3rd time is very difficult. This was because when Bailey Yin Lu was escaping, not only did she discard the repair material for the 7 zither strings separately, but she also threw them away. Furthermore, they were abandoned in 2 different worlds, the floating island and the Xiojin continent. 7 brilliance said with lingering fear. Fortunately, that stupid chicken did have some luck. Sending you to the floating island was really the right choice. Just as it came down from the merry-go-round, the little chick hears Qi Huang mention it. It can't help but chuckle as it rushes over. It rolls from Qi Huang's embrace to Mu Yan's, and from Mu Yan's embrace to Qi Huang's, letting out strange laughter from time to time. Chapter 32:14. Mu Yan couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. This stupid chicken, if it wasn't for its high luck, it would have already been stewed. Every time Qi Huang bullied it, it would run over crying and complain. In the end, the fish's memory was completely forgotten as soon as it turned its head, and it pounced on Qi Huang while shouting Brother Red Pants. Qi Huang picked up the stupid chicken and pressed it on the map. Come, pick a random point and tell me where the zither string repair materials are. The little chicken tilted its head, its big eyes blinking, and the ahog on its head stood up. Then it opened its sharp beak and spat out a bubble. It floated to Qi Huang's face, and with a pop, it burst and turned into water. Well, a chicken's saliva. Mu Yin couldn't hold back. Poochie, bald chicken, you're dead. Goo-goo-goo, woof, woof, woof. Ah, Mom, help. Brother, help. Brother Red Pants is going to kill Huang Wang. Ju Mu Yin, don't laugh. As soon as Mu Yin left the space, she heard a hurried knock on the door. Then, the little monkey's anxious voice came from outside the door. Miss, my mother and the drunkard lunatic have woken up. Please go and see. Wei Mian actually woke up so soon? As soon as Mu Yin left the room, countless gazes immediately turned to look at him. What she saw were messy buildings and piles of stones, and went everywhere. This was originally the encampment of the Mountain Split sect. It was very close to the gravel hill. According to Wei Mian, after bringing these people out of the gravel hill, Mu Yin had them build a town suitable for tens of thousands of people to live in. However, the people in the gravel hill were just a group of ordinary people without cultivation. How could it be easy to build a town? Moreover, these people were not so much surrendering to Mu Yin at the moment. It would be better to say that Wei Mian's general skill had branded their sea of knowledge. They couldn't betray Mu Yan in a short time, otherwise they would be punished by the explosion of their sea of knowledge. Although they couldn't betray or leave, these people would be slack. Some of them even had the idea of returning to the gravel hill rather than staying here. The strong desire to return to the floating island and shake the world had long been erased in the past few days, because they discovered that no matter how much they absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, no matter how many doctors they secretly went to the neighboring towns to seek treatment from, and no matter how many natural treasures they ate, they still couldn't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Trash was still trash. There was no improvement at all. No matter how beautiful and noble the floating island was, people without cultivation like them could only be like rats in the sewers, trembling with fear and hiding for the rest of their lives. Otherwise, he would die a tragic death. On the other hand, at least they were still alive at Gravel Hill. Why is it so noisy over there? The she-devil hasn't appeared for a few days. What's she doing today? Haven't you heard? The female demon treated Drunkard and the others. Those people were crippled, including the prostitute named Ruane Yang, who fell into a coma after receiving treatment. Everyone thought that they were dead for sure. TSK, I didn't expect them to be so lucky and actually come back to life. Cure? Treat what? Don't tell me you can reattach those crippled limbs? Ha ha. This statement drew a burst of laughter from the crowd. Stop joking, okay? The tendons and veins in the hands and feet are all broken, and it's not just broken, it's been broken for 10 or 20 years. Even if it's on the floating island, those famous spirit masters wouldn't be able to cure it. Chapter 32:15. I admit that the she-devil's combat power and array skills are amazing, but her medical skills... How is it possible for such a young girl? I think the she-devil is just bored and tormented the drunkard and the others for fun. Didn't the drunkard, lunatic, and the other cripples almost die from the torture? While gloating, everyone stopped what they were doing and squeezed into the room where the drunkard and the others were recuperating, because they were not having a good time. Therefore, these people wanted to see others in a worse state than them. However, the person walking at the front was just about to squeeze in. Suddenly, a large bony hand pressed down on his head and pushed him out. A powerful force hit him in the face. The people at the door groaned and flew out dozens of meters, piling up and falling on the ground. Damn, who pushed me? Someone cursed and looked up. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out. "2. Butcher. Tai 2, old good. You. How can you stand up?" The person called Tai 2 was a man with a leopard head and round eyes. When his limbs were broken, it was not obvious. Now that he stood up, he was tall and strong. His head was almost touching the door. Hearing everyone's shocked question, the man could not help but laugh out loud. "You think I can only stand up?" As soon as he finished speaking, Tai 2 casually slapped. A loud boom came from afar. Broken. Broken. That's iron fur, wood that can't be easily cut with a knife. And he didn't even get close. He just waved his hand lightly, and the thick wood was broken. My God, how did he do that? The natives of Gravel Hill were shocked. They had never seen such a magical martial art. However, those who were even more shocked than them were those who had abandoned their cultivation for various reasons and were eventually thrown into the rocky mound. You can use spiritual power? How is that possible? Weren't your meridians and Dantian destroyed before? Tai 2 sneered. Not destroyed? How is that possible? Didn't anyone check if your Dantian was completely destroyed when you were thrown in a gravel hill? There was silence. Of course not. It was not that there were no people on the floating island who had lost their cultivation, but because there was someone protecting them, they could live well. Those who were thrown into the rocky mound were either lonely people or people who had been deliberately set up. Therefore, the possibility of his Dantian not being destroyed was almost zero. But since their Dantians were destroyed, why could they still? After Tai 2 and the others finished speaking, they seemed to be a little confused. More than 10 people came out of the house in a single file. Every single one of them had their limbs intact, and their footsteps were steady. Their eyes were blurred as they muttered something. Then, he began to attack like Tai Tu. Boom, boom, boom. After a few explosions, the simple buildings that had been built with great difficulty were smashed into pieces. However, no one cared about that at all. That was because everyone was looking at Butcher and the rest in a daze, rubbing their eyes over and over again as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. As a matter of fact, Butcher and the others weren't any better than these people. Chapter 32:16. Scholar, quick, come and pinch me or stab me in the leg. I wonder if I'm still in a dream. Ouch, damn. You poisonous scholar, you really stabbed me. Ha ha, my spiritual power is back. I never thought that I would be able to stand up and restore my cultivation in my lifetime. Aha, villainous heavens, have you finally opened your eyes? The dozen or so people roar loudly, venting. Some people look up to the sky and laugh, while others curse and vent their spiritual energy. Some people laugh and laugh, their eyes already red. The butcher stares blankly at his brothers who are almost crazy, feeling a lump in his throat. It's been several days since they came out from the gravel hill, but she still doesn't feel real. She always feels like her feet are stepping on clouds, and her soul is still trapped in a dream. Did they really meet Miss June in the gravel hill? Is there really someone in this world who can break the barrier of the gravel hill? Is everything that happened at this moment really not a delusion born from their desperate situation? Until inside the house, a girl in snow-white clothes slowly walks out of the door. Following behind her is Ruane Yang, who has changed into a cyan dress, and Wei Mian, who has shaved his beard. The scene is quiet for a moment, then a raging clamor breaks out. Miss Ju, what's going on? Who healed their hands and feet? How can an abandoned Dantian be restored? Miss June, tell me quickly. Can my Dantian also be restored? Muyin curls up her lips and faintly glances at Wei Mian. The man with unkempt hair and dirty face in the gravel hill has shaved off his beard. He looks like a young man in his 30s. His eyebrows are thick and black, his eyes are deep, and his cheeks are slightly sunken. His words and actions are obviously sloppy, casual, and unruly, but there's an inexplicable, awe-inspiring righteousness all over his body. Receiving Mu Yan's instructions, Wei Mian smiles faintly, his eyes slightly narrowing. The next moment, the noisy crowd lets out a muffled groan. In a split second, their pale faces calm down. Wei Mian is about to order them to kneel before Mu Yan. With a leap, Mu Yan leaped onto the roof and looked down at the tens of thousands of motley crew below. That's right. She was used to the strict orders of the Nether Fire Army and the strong armors of the soldiers. Although there were many of them and their original cultivation was high, she really looked down on them. In her eyes, these people couldn't even compare to Liang Chen's army and Qing Cheng's army. But when he thought about Seven and eldest senior brother's background and what Wei Mian had said, she still said in a clear voice, I can answer your questions now. Mu Yan's finger passes over Wei Mian, Butcher, and the others. I was the one who connected the tendons of their hands and feet. Their dantians were also repaired by me using a secret medical technique. Whoosh. Although they had already expected it, hearing Mu Yin personally admit it, the tens of thousands of people below still couldn't help but explode. Can it really repair the Dantian? Then can I also recover my cultivation? If I can cultivate again, so what if I have to serve this woman? June Mayan, I'm willing to recognize you as my master like Butcher and the others. I beg you to heal my injuries. That's right. At worst, we'll submit to you and become your subordinates. Mayan sneers, her face full of ridicule. Aren't you mistaken about something? Chapter 32:17. Did I beg you to be my subordinates? The noisy crowd below goes quiet. Mu Yin continues to speak unhurriedly. I'm not interested in a group of good-for-nothing subordinates with no loyalty at all. If you want me to heal your injuries, you either have to show enough value or pay enough loyalty. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. The faces of the people below are all colorful. Jun Muyin, don't be too arrogant. Before I entered the gravel hill, I was at the 9th rank of the mortal cultivation realm, higher than you. If I wasn't framed, do you really think I would be willing to serve a little girl like you? Damn, you actually said we're good for nothings. You smelly woman, no fart. When I was galloping unhindered, your hair wasn't even fully grown yet. Wei Mian knits his brows, leaps up and lands beside Mu Yin, about to speak. But he sees Mu Yin wave her hand, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a smile that isn't a smile. Oh? So you think that if you recover your cultivation, you'll be stronger than me? Several people below coldly snort. Although they don't speak, the contempt and resentment in their expressions are obvious. Mu Yin turns her hand over, and the Tian Mo Chin floats in front of her. All right, since that's the case, I'll give you a chance. Slender fingers, as white as jade, slowly pluck the strings. The melodious sound of the Chin slowly lingers between heaven and earth. The high realm of stars launches. Wei Mian looks at Mu Yin in shock, the admiration and awe in his eyes growing heavier. This little girl, no. How many secrets does his new master have? At such a young age, with a cultivation of the mortal cultivation realm, she has actually mastered 4 domains. As the illusionary reality of the realm of stars shrouds the area, the few people who had just spoken up to provoke Mu Yin are shocked to find that their bodies have begun to surge with spiritual power. But without waiting for them to go wild with joy, they hear Mu Yin saying indifferently, "Don't be happy too early. The cultivation that you've recovered at this time is only an illusion that's infinitely close to reality in my domain. Once the domain is withdrawn, your body will return to its original state, unless you receive treatment." Everyone is shocked, and there's no longer any contempt in their eyes as they look at Mu Yin. They already knew that this woman is powerful, but they didn't expect that even her domain is powerful to this extent. But there were still a few people who proudly walked forward, looking at Mu Yin with unkind eyes. All of these people had reached the tribulation passing stage. The first to speak was a middle-aged man with a long and narrow face. He casually cupped his fists towards Mu Yin, straightened his neck, and said, "I'm Cheng Jialan. A few years ago, I was the leader of a small mercenary team. I'm at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm. I like to learn from you." On the path of cultivation, the peak of the mortal cultivation realm was already at the level of being able to trigger the heavenly tribulation. Even on the floating island, such strength was not to be underestimated. Therefore, when everyone heard this, they were shocked at first, and then immediately revealed expressions of watching a good show. Mu Yin, however, has an indifferent expression, lacking interest. "I'm not interested in your past. Are you going to come to me one by one or all at once?" What the hell? Wasn't this woman a little too arrogant? She was indeed very powerful, but no matter how powerful she was only at the mortal cultivation stage 9. And of the people who attacked, which one of them wasn't at the 9th rank of the mortal cultivation realm? Moreover, Cheng Jialan was still at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm. Where did this woman get the confidence to think that she could fight against so many? Everyone's faces were ugly. Chapter 32:18. Cheng Jialan sneers. "Ignorant child, ignorant woman, I hope you can still be arrogant under my flaming gale palm." Mayan turns her wrist, and the 7 absolute swords slowly appear. However, before she can make a move, a small figure blocks in front of her. It was a little doll carved out of jade. Its skin was pink and white, and its ice blue eyes were like sparkling and translucent sapphires. The whole person is as lovely as an angel who has fallen into the world by mistake. But his little face is taut, and his whole body exudes a cold and oppressive pressure. At first glance, people almost forget that this is just a child. "Niangqin, you don't need to teach these people a lesson. Xiaobao can do it for you." The crisp and childish voice says words that are completely arrogant and look down on everyone. Everyone is stunned at first. Then the scene bursts into laughter. Did my ears deceive me? This baby actually said that he will teach us a lesson for his mother? "Ha, little baby, Have you weaned yet? Don't tell me that you still wet the bed at night. I didn't expect that the female devil to have a son at such a young age. This baby is really beautiful, but I didn't expect him to be even more arrogant than the female devil. Chung Jolin sneers. Miss June, don't let your son get in the way. If you want to fight, fight quickly. Mayan looks down at Xiaobao. She suddenly leans back and casually sits on the roof. The corner of her mouth slowly hooks up into a faint smile. Xiaobao, don't be too ruthless with these uncles. If you hurt them, it won't be easy for Nyangqin to cure them. Xiaobao nods with a taut face. He raises his hand, and the Bishies sword, which is almost as tall as his body, appears in front of him. The 5 or 6-year-old baby is holding a sword that is almost as tall as him. The whole person looks soft and cute. No matter how you look at it, it's so cute that it has nothing to do with fighting. The people below laugh even more crazily. Is June Mayan's brain broken? Does she really want this baby to come out and fight? Is she really his mother? She's so heartless that she even wants to kill her own son. Even Wei Mian can't help but be stunned. Looking at the little baby who can't even hold the sword firmly, he hesitates. Miss, if it's inconvenient for you to fight, it's better to let this subordinate come down. Butcher, Tai Tu, and the others also shouted. That's right. If anyone dares to be disrespectful to you, we'll beat them up until their father can't recognize them. However, Mu Yin said indifferently, don't underestimate my family, Xiaobao. It's more than enough to deal with this mob. Chung Jolin calmly said, June Mayan, are you looking down on us? Mu Yin, whether or not he is looking down on me, won't we know after we fight? Chung Jolin and the other cultivators couldn't bear it anymore. They roared and fiercely pounced towards the roof. Of course, their target isn't Xiaobao, but Mayan. Although most of the people in the gravel hill were outlaws, they would not go as far as to lay their hands on a child. However, before they can get close to Mayan, a terrifying sword light soared into the sky. Apart from Chung Jolin, everyone else was thrown to the ground. The little boy was floating in the air with a long sword in his hand. He pointed the tip of his sword at Chung Jolin, his expression cold and disdainful. I've said it before, you're not qualified to fight against my mother. Shit. Fuck me. Those cultivators who were thrown to the ground were practically Spartans. Chapter 32:19. Just now, when the sword energy attacked, they were thrown to the ground from a high altitude. The most frightening thing was that the sword energy contained a terrible pressure. It made them unable to resist, and the fear of submitting rose in their hearts. And this kind of pressure was actually being emitted by a 6-year-old child. Mu Yin slowly sat up straight, looking at the little figure fighting with Chung Jolin. The expression on her face was gratified, proud, sour, and distressed. She knew that Xiaobao grew up very quickly, but it was still faster than she expected. After half an hour, the battle came to an end. Although no one else joined in the battle, only Chung Jolin fought against Xiaobao. But Xiaobao won in the end. A child won against a mighty expert at the peak of the crossing calamity stage. There was a deathly silence in the hall. Only Xiaobao withdrew the evil warding sword and flew back to Mu Yan's side. He raised his head, a pair of big ice-blue eyes flashing with dazzling light, as if he was looking forward to something. Mu Yan looked at the small wounds on Xiaobao with some distress, but she didn't show any worry or sadness. Instead, she stretched out her hand and gently pressed his little head. Xiaobao is amazing. You can help Nyangqin in the future. Yeah. Although his little face was still expressionless, a joyful and excited smile bloomed in his big eyes. Xiaobao nodded heavily, then threw himself into Mu Yan's arms. This was his long-lost mother's recognition and praise. Xiaobao liked it very much. The little monkey below was next to Rui Nyang, looking at the little boy in Mu Yan's arms. His eyes revealed a look of envy and worship. Little master, Nyangqin said to call this little baby little master. If one day he could be as strong as the little master, that would be great. Mu Yan gave Xiaobao an elixir to recover from his injuries. Then she let the phantom doppelganger stop playing and cancel the illusion created by the realm of stars. In an instant, The spiritual power that filled the body completely disappeared. It was like the end of a beautiful dream. Everyone's face showed a disappointed and regretful expression. Only Cheng Jialan stared blankly at Mu Yin and Xiao Bao. Suddenly, bending one knee, he crawled and knelt on the ground. I, Cheng Jialan, am willing to follow Miss. Obey your orders and never regret. I hope Miss will give me this opportunity. The other crossing tribulation stage cultivators, who had experienced Xiao Bao's power, also came to their senses and knelt down to swear an oath. This time, there was no longer any grievance or dissatisfaction in their hearts. There was only reverence. Indeed, the strong preyed on the weak in Shattered Rock Hill. It was cruel and cold. However, it was precisely because of this cruel living environment that these people believed that the strong ruled. Mu Yin smiles and looks at Wei Mian. General Wei, do you think these people are qualified to be your soldiers? Wei Mian was taken aback, his expression dazed for a moment. How many years had it been since anyone called him General Wei? But very quickly, a smile blossomed on his face as he glanced at Cheng Jialan and the others. Barely passable, but you can be considered the best of the best. Just make do with it. His tone was even more disgusted with this group of rabble than she was. Mine can't help but laugh, but she still calls out the Tian Mo Chin. The sound of the zither rang out, and the art of yellow was launched. Then, all the people at Gravel Hill witnessed a miraculous medical skill. The treatment had clearly lasted for 12 hours. Chapter 32:20. Everyone waited from dawn to dusk, but no one left during this period. No one even made a sound. Finally, the treatment is over. Cheng Jialan's face is pale at this time, and the pain from his dantian makes his body twitch uncontrollably. However, he feels spiritual power. It's not an illusion, it's not a dream, but he really feels the spiritual power surging in his dantian. Tears pour out of his eyes without warning. Cheng Jialan embarrassedly wipes them away, and when he turns his head, he finds that the cultivators around him are also in tears, all sorts of feelings welling up in their hearts. He stares at the beautiful girl on the roof, and then can't help but mutter, "This time, I can't not give my all and pledge my loyalty to her." After saying that, he can't help but burst into a big smile. From this day onwards, the future of these hopeless wastes has completely changed. After this day, the construction speed of the entire town has increased by more than 10 times. It's not just the cultivators of the original floating island. It's the natives of the Gravel Hill. After seeing the two brothers Guodapeng and Guo Erpeng take the molding spirit pill refined by Mayan and finally possess spiritual roots, each and every one of them is even more enthusiastic than those foreign cultivators. In the following month, Mayan cultivates her swordsmanship and magical abilities. According to the list submitted by Wei Mian, she treats the injuries of these people one by one and reconstructs their bones. She doesn't know what this Wei Mian used to do. He seems to be very handy in building a powerful army. And those people under him, the butcher, Tai Tu, Old Gu, the scholar, every single one of them looked like an ordinary boorish man. However, when they recover, even mine can't help but be speechless when they display their talents. Training the army, arranging logistics, and establishing a complete ranking and contribution system. In just a short month, the appearance of these tens of thousands of mobs has undergone earth-shaking changes. If Mayan's previous Netherflame army could have such strong strength and tacit understanding because of their common belief, the army on the floating island is completely built by Wei Mian through professional, overbearing, and coercive means. Wei Mian reports the recent situation of training and the construction of the town to Mayan. His brows are slightly wrinkled. Mayan looks up at him. "What? Is there any problem?" Wei Mian scratched his head and sighed helplessly. Most of the aborigines of Crushed Stonehill really don't have any talent for cultivation. Although Miss used the spirit molding pill to reconstruct most of their spiritual roots. However, I can only reach the 3rd or 4th stage of the mortal cultivation realm. Oh, the Anidia realm that Miss mentioned. The limitations are still too great. There are far too many people here who are just here to make up the numbers. With such an army, if this subordinate is given some time to train, it won't be difficult for them to defeat a second-rate sect or family. But if they were to face the 6 great families or the 8 great sects, I'm afraid we won't even have a 50% chance of winning. Thump! The spirit fruit in Mu Yan's mouth falls down. She sorted out her thoughts and looked at Wei Mian in disbelief. You're saying that there's no difficulty in beating the second-rate clans and sects of the floating islands? If she remembered correctly, the second-rate clans and sects on the floating island weren't something a mere 18th-rate mountain split sect could compare to. Inside, there had to be at least an Earth Creation Realm expert, which was a 5th-stage Golden Immortal or above. The feelings of the Mysterious Life Realm and Mountain Opening Realm were innumerable. Chapter 32-21. The cultivation levels of the floating island are divided into Mortal Cultivation Realm, Mysterious Life Realm, Mountain Opening Realm, Earth Opening Realm, Sea Splitting Realm, Heaven Breaking Realm. Mine hasn't even stepped into the Mysterious Life Realm. She believes that she absolutely doesn't have the ability to fight against an Earth Opening Realm expert alone. And in Wei Mian's group, Butcher and Scholar have the highest cultivation, reaching the high level of the Earth Opening Realm. But their injuries were also very serious. Even if Mayan used Chi Huang to treat them for a few days, she could only barely recover half of their strength. To fully recover, it would take at least half a year to recuperate with medicine. As for the others, there are only 2 or 3 people whose cultivation has reached the Mysterious Life Realm. With such an army that doesn't even have a high-level cultivator, can they attack a second-rate sect? Mayan looks at Wei Mian with a strange look in her eyes. This guy can't be bragging because he wants to show off, right? As if he has seen through Mayan's thoughts. Wei Mian smiles. Miss, what kind of existence do you think the king level and above are? Except for the experts above the Earth Opening Realm, we can't trap or kill them. As for the others, once they fall into my battle formation, I can make them unable to escape even if they grow wings. Of course, the army controlled by the general is not invincible. If the cultivation level of the Spirit Master reaches or even exceeds the Sea Splitting Realm, then it is possible to destroy the entire army with their own strength. Mine blinks. Although what you said is very reasonable, why do I still feel like it's a fantasy? It's useless to say more. In the future, if there is a chance to let Miss experience it, you will know. Wei Mian says confidently, but then he can't help but frown and sigh. It's a pity that their aptitude is too poor. Who said that poor aptitude can't be improved? Mayan's smile carries a bit of craftiness. Wei Mian suddenly widens his eyes. You mean you have a way to improve their spirit root talent? Mayan raises her hand and snaps her fingers. A thin figure immediately comes in. As soon as he sees Mayan, he immediately kneels down. Gua Erping greets Miss. Wei Mian subconsciously glances at Gua Erping with his divine sense and almost jumps up in shock. You at least 1/3 of the impurities in your spirit root have been removed? How'd you do it? Gua Erping scratched his head. I listened to Miss play the zither for a while, then fell asleep. When I woke up, I found that my cultivation speed had increased. Miss, he suddenly turns his head and looks at Mu Yin with starry eyes. Miss, you're really amazing. I want to listen to the zither again. Oh, right. Can I let my brother and little sister listen together? Mayan waves her hand to let this silly boy leave. Wei Mian stared at her blankly for a long time before asking, Miss, how much time do you need for them to be reborn? The level of rebirth has always been one of Mayan's fastest musician skills. It was to improve the talents of the Nether Flame army and increase their cultivation in a short period of time. Later, with the advancement of the 9 stars and the moon, all the Shun musician skills directly increased by 3 stars. As for rebirth, which was already at 2 stars, it was now at the maximum of 4 stars, close to 5 stars. Therefore, the power that the rebirth could display now was naturally far from what it could be compared to when it was in the cultivation continent. Thus, Muyin thought for a moment and said, "It shouldn't be a problem for 1 or 200 people to be reborn in 2 hours." Chapter 32:22. Thump. This time, it was Wei Mion's turn to almost fall on the ground. At this time, the way he looks at Mu Yin is no longer like he's looking at a powerful little girl, but rather like he's looking at a heaven-defying monster. "Miss, are you really from the cultivation continent?" Mu Yin didn't hide this from Wei Mion and Ruan Yang. However, she did not mention the identities of her master, little Qi, and eldest senior brother for the time being. Wei Mion sighed. This subordinate heard that the cultivation continent is a much more barren place than the floating islands. This subordinate really can't imagine how such a world could give birth to monstrous geniuses like you and Little Master. Mayan smirks. In just one short month, a motley crew that's like scattered sand has been forged into an army that has just begun to take shape. Moreover, with such an army, he dares to say that fighting a second-rate sect or family wouldn't be a problem. "I'm the one who's curious about General Wei's background." Wei Mian knelt on the ground. "Please forgive me for not being able to tell you my true identity, but I promise that I will never betray you in this life." Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, Mu Yin did not insist and wave her hand to let him leave. Before leaving, Wei Mian suddenly turned around and asked, "By the way, miss, may I know the name of our newly built city?" "A name?" Mayan gently caresses the Tian Mo Chin on the table. After pondering for a moment, she slowly spits out 2 words, Xiaoyao. "Let's call it Liberty City. Long live this life and night, free and unfettered forever." Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior sister, fifth senior brother, seventh senior brother, little martial uncle, will you come to the floating island? If he came and heard this name, he would definitely know, right? This is our new home. Time passed very quickly. After promising Wei Mian that he would use the rebirth technique to transform his army, Wei Mian's expression changed. 1 month passed in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, Mu Yin had finally managed to smoothly integrate her divine swordsmanship with the 4 domains through the sword manual left behind by her junior martial uncle. The power of the sword technique had increased by more than 3 times. If he were to encounter an expert at the level of the mountain-splitting sect master again at this moment, even if she didn't use the power of law, she could still easily win. "What are you doing with so many cloud bones? Hurry, find the best blacksmith to forge my natal sword for me. This venerable one will not allow you to have one less natal sword than that pretty boy Luo Yunxiao." Hearing Qi Huang's nagging in her ear, Mayan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. 7 brilliance, this fellow's obsession towards little martial uncle simply reached a perverse degree. Speaking of which, ever since they parted ways in the northern continent of the Purple Cloud world, there had been no news of little Uncle Master. At that time, he left in a hurry. What happened? Is everything all right now? Looking at 7 brilliance, this fellow jumping around, little martial uncle should be fine, right? She doesn't know why, but Mayan has this kind of confidence in her heart. He was really at his wit's end because of Qi Huang's nagging. Mu Yin gave up on her cultivation and left the room with Xiao Bao. "Xiao Bao, I'm going to leave Liberty City for a while." Xiao Bao immediately said, "Xiao Bao will go with mother." Mu Yin smiled and nodded. The two walked out of the room. What he saw was a town that had completely changed. In a city of 10,000 households, the houses were connected to each other, and the paths crisscrossed. Along the street were shops that had been built, but most of them were still empty. There were very few people walking through it. They were all old, weak, women, and children from the gravel hill, because everyone was concentrated on the large drill ground in the north. Chapter 32-23. There, Wei Mian and his men were drilling tens of thousands of troops day after day. Seeing Mu Yin, everyone's eyes lit up. They saluted her respectfully and excitedly. "Greetings, Governor." Mississippi Wei Mian's subordinate, the scholar, walked to her and bowed. "Miss, have you come out of closed-door training? If you need anything, please tell me. I will definitely get it done for you." The scholar's original name was Zhou Zixuan. He was a very rare managerial talent. The construction of the entire Liberty City, the arrangement of logistical personnel, and the distribution of residences for soldiers and generals were almost all arranged by him. Mu Yin said, "Xiao Bao and I are going to leave Liberty City for a period of time." The scholar was stunned and hurriedly said, "Miss, please wait a moment. I will inform the general to send someone to accompany and protect you." Mu Yin was about to refuse. Suddenly, a noisy cry came from not far away. "Please, please, let me leave here just for a period of time. Humph! Military orders must be obeyed. Any coward who wants to be a deserter will be killed without mercy." Holding Xiao Bao's hand, Mu Yin walked in the direction of the noise. When the onlookers saw her coming, they all saluted excitedly. "Greetings, Governor." More than 2 months ago, these people looked at Mu Yin as if they were looking at a she-devil that they feared and loathed. But now almost everyone in the entire Liberty City was full of gratitude. It was this girl who gave him a new life. Although they hadn't really seen the vast world of the floating island, their strength was improving rapidly, and they had new pursuits and hopes in life. Mu Yin waved her hand to let everyone stand up, and then turned her eyes to the man kneeling on the ground. Mu Yin had some impression of this man. His name was Ma Quishan, because he was rare among the younger ones in the Gravel Hill, a young man who looked no more than 27 or 28 years old. But after his dantian was repaired, his cultivation reached the early stage of the tribulation stage. As soon as Ma Quishan saw Mu Yin, he immediately rushed to her in tears and said in a tearful voice, "Governor, I really didn't want to betray Liberty City, and I'm not ungrateful. I really have something I have to do." Before he could finish his words, he was kicked hard from behind. "Bah, you heartless deserter. Why didn't you say anything before the treatment? Why didn't they say this before the city lord distributed the pills? Now, you want to run after taking all the benefits? What kind of place do you take Liberty City for? Do you think you can come and go as you please?" Ma Quishan's face was filled with guilt, but he kept kowtowing and begging. Mu Yin asked curiously, "What do you want to do when you leave?" Ma Quishan hesitated for a moment before saying softly, "I want to enter the Tianguang ruins to save my father." "Tianguang ruins?" Mu Yin slightly widens her eyes and looks at Xiao Bao. So the floating island also had a Tianguang ruins? Would she be able to see little Tian inside? As Mu Yin ponders, she suddenly discovers that the expressions of the people around her have changed. Fear could be seen in the eyes of several people. Tai Tu, who had just kicked Ma Quishan, couldn't help but ask in a rough voice, "What are you going to the Tianguang ruins for? Do you want to die?" Ma Quishan wipes his tears, his body slightly trembling as he said, "My cultivation was abolished, and I was thrown into the Gravel Hill only 3 years ago. My Ma family is also a moderately large family, well off. My father's cultivation has reached the mysterious life realm, and no one in Jade Sea City can provoke him." Chapter 32-24. Unexpectedly, 3 years ago, my mother suddenly contracted a strange disease. After the doctor's diagnosis, he said that only the resurrected demon fruit in Tianguang ruins could cure her. My father and my mother loved each other deeply. In order to cure my mother, he disregarded his own safety and entered Tianguang ruins. When Ma Quishan said this, his expression fluctuated and his eyes revealed deep hatred. Unexpectedly, it was all a conspiracy. My mother was not sick at all, but was poisoned. It was to deceive my father into entering Tianguang ruins. Ever since we entered the Heavenly Light ruins, my father has never woken up. and that group of villains took the opportunity to rob my Ma family's property. In the end, my mother died of poison, and my father's body was taken away by his trusted subordinates to escape. I resisted desperately to buy time for my father, but my Dantian was destroyed and I was thrown into Gravel Hill. My life was worse than death. Ma Quishan choked and said, I originally thought that my father had died long ago, and I was prepared to be loyal to Miss for the rest of my life and never betray her. Unexpectedly, a few days ago, when I accidentally returned to the place where my father and I parted, I saw the message left by my father's trusted subordinates. Scholar Zhou Zishuan's expression changed. You told them that we came out of Gravel Hill? No, how dare I? Ma Quishan shook his head repeatedly. Miss once told us not to let anyone know that we came out of Gravel Hill before the time was right. Quishan kept this in mind and never dared to forget it for a moment. I just couldn't help but secretly follow them, and found that my father's body was still alive, but it had become as thin as a match. Because for 3 years, his divine soul had been trapped in Tianguang ruins and had never come out. Ma Quishan kowtowed to Mu Yin again and again, his tears falling like rain. Miss, I know I am ungrateful, but as a son, how can I not save my father when I know he is still alive and suffering in the Tianguang ruins? I beg you, let me go to Tianguang ruins. Your kindness I can only repay you in my next life. Mu Yin said with some hesitation. Is Tianguang ruins very scary? Isn't it a peaceful place specially used for trading, learning from each other, and gathering information? Zhou Zishuan exhaled softly and said, Miss, the place of peace you speak of is the Tianguang ruins a long time ago. 20 years ago, Tianguang ruins underwent a strange change. It turned out that more than 20 years ago, the Tianguang ruins, which was originally bustling with people, was now filled with people. Suddenly, without any warning, everyone inside was chased out. Soon after, no one could enter the Tianguang ruins for a whole 5 years, until everyone had almost forgotten the existence of the Tianguang ruins. The biggest ruling forces on the floating island were the Lan family empire and the three alliances, the Burning Moon Alliance, the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the Life Moon Alliance. They actually issued a bounty mission at the same time. The content of the mission was to let people enter the Tianguang ruins to search for the treasures on the list. There were all kinds of treasures, including heavenly deity artifacts that even the first-rate families of the floating island could not obtain. There were also king elixirs that could bring the dead back to life. There were countless precious natural treasures, rare spirit herbs, and immortal herbs. Those who accepted the bounty mission only had to enter the Tianguang ruins, find these treasures, and come out safely. Then they could receive generous rewards from the Lan family empire and the three alliances. When the bounty was issued, all the cultivators on the floating island flocked to it. Chapter 32:25. Who knew that after entering the Heavenly Light ruins, he would discover that the place had already changed. The once bustling and ancient town had been reduced to ruins. The rules that restricted fights and maintained peace had long since disappeared without a trace. As long as you were strong enough, you could do whatever you wanted in there and become a king. One had to know that it wasn't a human's physical body that was in the Tianguang ruins, but a divine soul. Once the divine soul was injured, there would be no buffer. It was 100 times scarier than the physical damage. Therefore, on the first day the bounty was announced, half of the people in Tianguang ruins died. Even if the remaining half survived by a fluke, even if they found a treasure, they would not be able to survive. However, he was also scared and panicked. He desperately wanted to escape. However, it was only then that they discovered the most terrifying aspect of the Tianguang ruins. The people inside couldn't come out. No, it wasn't that he couldn't get out, but if one wanted to leave the Heavenly Light ruins, there were strict rules. Zhou Zishuan said, people call the mutated skylight ruins the massacre skylight ruins. Because in this Tianguang ruins, besides the treasures hidden everywhere and the cruel law of survival of the fittest, there's also a slaughter list. Slaughter list? Mu Yin stares blankly. That's right. This massacre roll records the names of the top 1,000 soul masters who killed the most living beings in the Sky Light ruins within the past 3 months. Zhou Zixuan answered. These beings can be the desolate beasts conjured from the Tianguang ruins, or they can be humans. Mu Yin frowned slightly. Is the condition to leave Tianguang ruins related to this slaughter list? Zhou Zixuan nodded. Only the 1,000 people on the slaughter list are qualified to leave Tianguang ruins. Mu Yin looks pensive. His fingers subconsciously touched the floating light jade key. This thing was given to her by little Tian. Since she was sent to the floating island, it should have something to do with the Tianguang ruins. But she tried several times here, but she was unable to enter the Tianguang ruins. So there was actually such an unforeseen event. Mu Yin suddenly said, "How can I enter the heavenly ruins of massacre?" The whole place fell into a deathly silence. Zhou Zixuan stammered. "Miss, you wouldn't be going to Tianguang ruins, right? Please, please don't." Mu Yin beckons Ma Quishan with her finger. "You speak." Ma Quishan was also dumbfounded. With a sobbing tone, he said, "Miss, you might not know this, but the people left in the heavenly light ruins of massacre are basically all experts above the mysterious life realm. Those people kill people like flies and are bloodthirsty. I have no choice but to go because of my father. You must not take the risk." Mu Yin frowns, still wanting to speak. The people around him had already knelt down one by one and shouted, "City Lord, please reconsider. Your precious body must not be risked." These people were not loyal to Mu Yin to this extent. It was because they knew too well that the young woman before them was the backbone of Liberty City. Mu Yin is speechless for a while. She pursed her lips and considered whether she should ask Wei Mian, the bold one, or just take Ma Quishan and leave. At this moment, the clear and deep voice of the youth rang out from the void. "Mu Yin wants to know how to enter the Tianguang ruins? Why are you asking them? I'll tell you." Hearing this familiar voice, Mu Yin jerked her head around. His breathing suddenly quickened, and he hurriedly took a few steps back. Chapter 32:26. Close at hand, the face that was too big to be seen slowly became clear. Cold white skin, light pink lips, and a signature bright red scarf covering his face. Li Weiran, why did this pervert come back? Mayan's brows jumped, and she was about to speak. She saw a small figure suddenly rush in front of her, protecting her behind him. Xiaobao's expression was usually cold and calm. But now his icy blue eyes were so cold that it seemed like ice shards would fall. He was looking at Li Weiran with full vigilance. Li Weiran looked down. He was stunned to see Xiaobao. He couldn't help but reach out with his slender white hand, as if he wanted to touch Xiaobao's eyes. Buzz! The Bixie sword in Xiaobao's hand trembled, about to be unsheathed. But Mayan reacted quickly and hugged him, protecting him in her arms. She looked at Li Weiran coldly. "What do you want to do to my son?" "Your son?" Li Weiran tilted his head, looking interested. "So Mayan, you have son?" His next sentence turned into a voice transmission. "How many years has it been since I last saw a child with a natural immortal body? Mayan, you are unique, and your child is really interesting." Mayan frowned. "Li Weiran, what do you want to do?" "Nothing much. I missed you, so I couldn't help but come over." Mayan sneered. "Couldn't help but come over to kill me? Do you want to draw another bolt of lightning to kill me?" Li Weiran felt wronged. Mayan was the one who drew that bolt of lightning. "How can you blame me? I even risked my life to block it for you. Look, the scar left on my hand, it still hurts." The hand that reached over was slender and fair, with well-proportioned joints. It was like a work of art carved out of the most perfect white jade. There wasn't a single flaw. What fucking scar? What fucking faint pain? Mu Yin only feels a swelling pain in her temples. She had never met such a perverted and shameless person before. She couldn't beat him, and she couldn't kill him. Unreasonable and ruthless, going back on his words like a fart. His skin was as thick as a city wall. Last time, she finally waited for Di Ming-ju to hammer him to death. But this guy ran away faster than a ghost. Muyin couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He carried Xiao Bao with one hand and picked up Ma Quishan, who was still in a daze, with the other. He turned around and left. He stood on the 7 absolutes, sword, and flashed swiftly towards the dark Parasol Desert according to Ma Quishan's guidance. The dark Parasol Desert was called a desert, but only half of it was actually a desert. The other half, with the Spirit Azure River as the dividing point, was picturesque and beautiful. On the other hand, the dark Parasol Desert was the base of the Luoyun Alliance that was one of the kingdom's 3 alliances and 8 great sects on the floating island. According to Ma Quishan, the Heavenly Light ruins of Massacre could no longer be entered with the Jade Key. One had to be in the imperial city of the Lan family empire, or in a special formation set by the Luoyun Alliance, the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the Life Moon Alliance. Only with the Jade Key given by them could one enter the Slaughtering Sky Light ruins. Ma Quishan said cautiously, "Miss, do you really want to enter the Tingwang ruins?" Muyin glanced at him and said faintly, "Describe your father's appearance and life in detail. I will help you find him, so you don't have to enter the Tingwang ruins." How? How can this be? Ma Quishan was anxious and excited. How can this subordinate not stay by your side and protect you? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.